Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Hey everyone, welcome back to J is for Justice. My name is Jay. I am your host this afternoon. Thank you for joining. Dancing it in a little bit today. Me and Summer Lou are here live. There is no verdict yet. No verdict. They stop at 4 p.m. unless they tell Judge Gall they want to keep going. So we have to wait until, I guess, 4 p.m. and see if they decide to keep going or if they are going to wrap it up at 4 p.m. and come back tomorrow. So I guess the choice is theirs. Welcome in, everybody. And if you got any monkeys on your back, I mean, that's really, it's not funny. It's not even funny. So JLR was just live talking about these monkeys that escaped from this facility in South Carolina, and it's effing sad. What's up, Kels and Shell? Who else do we got in here? Angie B. Thanks for coming in and moderating. Paul Meadowbug and Melissa B. We've got all of our clicker cooters, Sherry, Chris, Nicole G, Mark Monkey Klein. We've got Lovey, Lucid, Sherry. Oh, Sherry. Michelle Favors. We're going to be taking your calls today. See what you guys think. What up? Butter. Ain't nothing better than butter. Judy Holiday. Delaney. Green-eyed PI. Baby D. Baby D, did you get picked for the jury duty you were called for, or did you get out of it? What ended up happening with that? Baby D. Happy Friday to you, Kels. Uninvited, good to see you this afternoon. Crystal Burns. Retired, good to see you. Hummingbird, J Low. Chris, you're blaming Chris. Hey, Lisa. Those poor monkeys. I know it's awful. Hey, Vestiges. Hey, Tim Sparks. How's Seabawing today? I was wondering what was wrong, Lisa. Like, don't cry. Well, everybody, welcome in. Welcome in. We are still on Verdict Watch, and they will be on Verdict Watch, like I said, until 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless they decide to stay longer. So they have the option to stay longer. So let's say today they're like close, or they feel close. They can say, you know what, we'll stick around this evening. But if they don't, then I guess they're back tomorrow. From what I understand, they're deliberating every day but Sunday. Hey, Dupsy. I know. I still love that song. Yeah, make sure you get your votes in, too. Right now, we're at guilty 33%, not guilty 37%, and a hung jury at 30%. So let's go over. Hey, Poppy. Poppy the good troll. Let's go over our results from yesterday, and then we'll start taking calls. So yesterday, you guys came in hot with guilty at 28%. This is in the community tab. It's Eastern time, Catherine, so it's 3:10 Eastern there. So yesterday, you guys were at 28% guilty, 34% not guilty, and 38% hung. Today, you're at 24% not guilty, or let me start that over. 24% guilty, 39% not guilty, and 37% hung. So more people are at the not guilty versus guilty. So some of you have switched over from not guilty to guilty. I don't know. So this is where I have this moral debate, if you will, in my head. Do I think that he did it? Or perhaps it was involved in doing it? Yes. Do I think that the state proved their case that he did it? No. So if I'm on a jury, I have to vote. I have to vote not guilty. But if I'm sitting in my Studio J here in Clearwater, Florida, I think that he still could have had something to do with this. I'm not convinced he's a fall guy. I'm not all the way there. But if I'm on the jury, I would have to vote not guilty. And I guess that's what, if you're looking at it from a jury standpoint, if there's any smidgen of doubt, you must vote not guilty. Good afternoon, Amanda. Did you guys happen to catch Vinny today? Vinny talked about Sebastian Rogers today. And I think we're going to do a review. I think we're going to do a review of Vinny's live today. The Tangent podcast. Yeah. But you know what? We know what all the YouTubers say. We've heard from them. We've heard from everyone on YouTube. Now it's time to tell me what you think. What do you think personally? What do you think if you were, okay, so we're going to do calls. What you're going to do is you're going to tell me what you would vote if you were a juror, but just being a regular everyday person who's following this case. We're not fucking jurors. We're not fucking lawyers. We're not any of that. So what's your personal opinion versus if you were a juror, what would you do? Our first call is coming in hot.
From
Doug Hale.
You are live on the air with Jay. Who am I talking to? Doug? Is this Doug? From Tennessee? Hello? Hello, Mr. Doug. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me? What happened? Let me test my audio. Make sure my mic's working. Y'all could hear him, right? Let's try that again. 727-755-6001 is the call-in number. Let me know what you think personally. Let me know what you think if you were on a jury. Let's try this again, Doug.
call from
Doug Hale.
Hi, Doug. You are live on the air with Jay. Can you hear me? Hello? Now, I don't know if it's me or him, but Doug, I can't hear you. Hello?
Y'all can hear him, right?
Hello? Doug?
Again, 727.
Doug, I can hear you, but can you hear me? Okay. Something's going on with Doug. 727-755-6001 is the hotline. You guys call in and let me know what you think. I could hear me in the background, so I don't know why he can't hear me through the phone. We're trying it again.
from
You are live on the air with Jay.
Hello?
Doug, can you hear me?
Hello?
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 Doug? Douglas?
Hello?
Douglas, can you hear me? Hello?
727.
I don't think Doug can hear me, y'all. All right, somebody else try to call in. See if you can hear me. 727-755-6001. For some reason, it seems like he can't hear me. Who has been a member for a month? Who is that? Candy Wrapper. Oh, Lord have mercy.
from
Hello, you are live on the air. Hello.
Douglas, can you hear me?
Doug, I
Hello?
can hear your YouTube. He can't hear me, Cooter. Doug, can you hear me? He can't hear me. Someone try to call 727-755-6001. Hey, Petty. Good to see ya. I think the monkeys broke into Doug's house. We have a monkey invasion. It's Doug again.
Call from
Doug from Tampa.
Hello, Doug. Douglas. Someone else call the test. I'll call myself, damn it. You guys are such chicken shits. Fuck's sake. 727-755-6001. Jay's calling fucking Jay. Here we go. Oh, I got my own voicemail. I can't call myself. Someone needs to call 727-755-6001. He's fucking with me. I'm not answering him again until someone else calls. Mark Klein, call me 727-755-6001. He should hear me through his phone. It's a phone call. 727-755-6001. Here we go. Let's see who we got.
from
Michelle Favors.
You are live on the air with Jay. Can you hear me? So it's not Doug's problem?
call from
Odin girl.
You're live on the air with Jay. Can you hear me? Oh my God, it's my problem, y'all. Fuck. Why are you guys not hearing me? I appreciate you guys all calling. Okay, everybody can stop calling. It's my problem. What in the actual hell? Why can you guys not hear me? Mm-mm-mm. Hang on, I'm going to try to call myself here. Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, it's like dead air.
Yeah, it's like dead air.
Hold the calls. Hold the calls. Thank you, Odin. Yeah, something ain't right. Is it something in my Chrome? Seems like... Let's try this again. Yeah, hold all calls. I got to figure this out. I don't know why it would be doing that because... It's showing me that it's working is the weird thing. I don't know why y'all can't hear it. Mic check, mic check. Now it doesn't work, but let's see here. Okay, can someone try? All right, let's try this again. 951, I'm going to try to call you back. Your browser might prevent calls. Oh, wait, hold on. I got troubleshoot Google Voice call quality. All right, I've got to do something because I updated my computer. I am so sorry, guys. Allow sites to play sounds. That's what I have to do. Add. Okay. Does that help it? Let's see. Okay, let's try it now. I think I've fixed it. I'm pretty sure. Hello, hello. Yeah, it's showing it's working. Okay. Okay, 951. I'm going to give you a jingle. Hopefully you can hear me.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, hello?
Hello?
Damn, dude.
Hello?
Oh my God, I called. Whoever that was, I'm so sorry. I'm pranking my own viewers. Hold on. Oh my God, that's Doug. Hold on. I know what I have to do. Give me 2 seconds. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. I'm getting blown up. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Y'all crack me up. Only me, right? I got to add this site. Damn it. If we can't get it to work, then I'm going to have to try a different method. Like StreamYard. We'll just have to do a link, I guess. I didn't want to have to do that. Okay, hang on. I'm calling myself to test this out. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, it's still not
That's
working.
still not working.
Stupid.
Stupid.
I feel like Sarah Boone. All right, we're going to have to do a link then. Christ's sake. Oh my God. I had to close it out. I'm sorry. We're going to have to do a link. StreamYard. Stupid. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know what happened to my settings. Hey, jammers. It's really dumb. But we'll do this. We'll do it this way. It's fine. Just a little snafu. I tried to call someone back. So if I called you back, I am really sorry if I wasn't trying to prank you or anything. Okay. So this should work, I guess. We'll do it this way. You guys, you don't have to have your camera on or anything crazy. What is going on here? How do you invite people? Dude, I feel like I've never done this before. Did they change this around? Oh, invite. Here we go. Gosh, darn it. Okay, here we go, guys. Now, y'all, Noel, it's fine. It's fine. I didn't know who I was calling. I was literally trying to get you guys can't hear me, but I can hear you type thing. I've got sample user. I'm a mess today. Oh my God. Betty, I love you. I love you. I'm so sorry. Okay, there's the link. Y'all can come up. You're not even going to be on screen. Like nothing's even going to show. What you see here is just us communicating. So there's the link. All you got to do is click it, pop up, and no one will see you. They'll just hear you just like a phone call. All right, so let's start over 26 minutes into the stream. God almighty. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can pin it. I'm really sorry for that. Sample user. Someone make the name sample user. Oh man. So yeah, I mean, this is a live chat reminder too, to go on live chat. But someone click that link. I mean, come on, y'all. All you got to do is click it. Come up here. Let me know what you think of what you would do if you were a jury member. And I'm really sorry, Doug. Here's the link. What you think of as a jury member, if you were a jury member, and what you think personally. I know. I'm so sorry, guys. Shit. I should have checked that. I was excited about it too. Sample user, petty AF sample user. It's great. It's great. So what do you guys think though? I mean, let's talk about this case. We've got the people that did not really identify him as Bridge Guy. My daughter Jay is calling. Hey, Texas, dude, you have not missed anything. Texas says I'm late.
Coming in hot, just like the fajita.
You want a cough drop?
You don't have Safari? I don't think you have to have Safari. Y'all are killing me. Are we just gonna have to watch videos? Let me take this off the screen. Oh, I heard someone pop on. There we go. Yay! What is up, my man? It is Tim Sparks from Sebawang.
What's going on, Jay?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, thank God. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Don't tell me.
How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. How is Sebawang?
Good. It's beautiful.
Is it?
It's almost 60 degrees. It's sun shining. The leaves are falling.
Dude, nice.
Beautiful right now.
That sounds really nice. That's not bad at all. I was waiting for you to say you had snow on the ground or something.
Oh, hell no.
Not yet.
Not yet. Give it another week or so.
Yeah, right. So what do you think about this case?
So, okay, well, I hunt. I have a handgun, right? So my whole thing when I heard about the bullet was if I go hunting and I have a few, bullets left in my gun and I rack them out, I put them in my coat pocket. So when I heard about the bullet being found there, I immediately assumed that it fell out of his pocket. Do I think he's 100% on his own with this whole thing? Probably not. And I don't think if I was a juror, I would say he was guilty. But personally, yeah, he's part of it, but not guilty.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of at the same spot. We've got two other people. We've got Cricket.
Hi.
Hey, Cricket.
Can you hear me?
Is that our Cricket Day?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
You are live. Oh my God, this is the first time I'm ever hearing Cricket Day's voice.
Really?
Yes. I've never heard you.
I called you.
You did?
Yeah, I called you.
Well, welcome to the panel, Cricket.
All right.
It's nice.
Who do we have?
It's nice to talk to you. We've got yourself, we've got Tim Sparks, and then we've got just Samantha who's waiting.
Okay, cool.
So go
Hey,
ahead.
Jay. Hey, guys.
Hey, Samantha.
Is my sound okay?
Yeah, you're perfect. This is working out great. I'm going to get you guys up on the screen so you guys can keep your cameras off. I just want people to be able to see who's talking, so it doesn't
Yeah,
get
no problem.
confusing. I've got you're up in the boxes. This is
100% guilty. And I was asking in chat, I hope you don't mind. I need to know if you watched Dr. John finally speak, because he's been quiet and Lauren's been doing all the talking, and I know you showed a little bit of her, so I hope it's not
No, you're good. You're good. I totally watched him yesterday and he brought me right back down to earth. I was like, what? Now I'm back on the where I originally was. How about you?
guilty.
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna agree.
Cricket. Cricket Day. Sample user has joined the panel. What's up, Sample?
Hey.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Okay. All right. So
Jay,
I don't know
Jay,
where
I
Cricket
think
went.
it's a Karen. I think it's like, for me, I've with B Tim, like, I think it's like the Karen Reed effect of conspiracy theory. Americans love it. They think it's a movie. The optimism, I think, is complete bullshit, and that's what the defense is counting on, which was spread like all throughout social media. All the rumors. 7 years it took. If that little posted note and Richard Allen's name was not misplaced, I think it would have been solved immediately. And unfortunately, we have all of the years that passed. So that takes a big hit, I think, to the case. But when it comes down to it, when you listen to Dr. John, when you listen to other people, it's all simple facts that prove that he was there. And I think people are overthinking it. It's very simple. He's guilty. He did it. And I have faith that the jury can see it.
Okay. I think people are just confused about the B Tim reference. Were you guys talking about that or something? Oh, because he talked
So
about Karen Reed. I got you.
The Karen Reed thing, and how so many people in the media believe like how she's not guilty in the conspiracy of going into the house. That's why I mentioned that. He's gonna kill me.
Oh, no,
That's
no,
my
no.
own little personal thing.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to clear it up. I didn't
But that's
watch.
how I can
I didn't
like
follow Karen
make it
Reed.
similar.
Yeah, I
So
didn't.
many people.
I didn't follow it, but I know that Turtle Boy is like has made it. I don't know. I've never watched it. I can't really speak too much on it, but I know Turtle Boy is part of like a conspiracy of it. I don't really know.
Right. Yes. So that's why that showed, I learned from that case in this case how people just love conspiracy theories,
Oh,
which was all I
hell
was trying
yeah.
to say.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you on that one. It's just like any other high profile that doesn't really have answers, like Chris Watts. You know, we've gone back and forth because we didn't really get straight answers. We didn't see it from beginning to end. Now, this trial, I expected it to tell a story. I expected it to tell us, you know, why Anthony Schatz was communicating with Libby a mere hours before she was dead. I was waiting to hear the connection between Anthony
Like,
Schatz.
how did Richard Allen know those girls were going to be there that day?
I guess they're saying he didn't, that he was there watching fish.
Well, he's got 20 other phones, but he doesn't have the phone from that time. That's kind of fishy, don't you think?
No, because I have I have a drawer full of phones. I can tell you that. And I'm not like, I don't think that's weird. I don't think that's weird.
What I think is weird is that they didn't need the phone to necessarily gather data, and they chose not to do it. So why, that's where I get this doubt. Why didn't the police do a thorough investigation? Right? Uncle Benny? Uncle Benny?
Yes.
You're on the panel. What's up, Uncle Benny?
Well, I might be getting a delay because I'm hearing I'm still hearing two people talking back and forth to each other.
Do you have your YouTube muted?
Oh, that's the problem. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just a moment.
And I don't think he could have done
Okay.
it by himself. I don't think he could have done it by himself.
You don't?
No.
What's your thoughts, Uncle Benny?
Well, I got to tell you, I maybe this is the reason I'm calling, because I'm at odds with everybody in here pretty much, and that's okay. You know, we're not going to decide the verdict, any of us, but I don't know whether he did it or not, but I do 100% believe that it's not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt the way our system is supposed to work, and that's really unfortunate. Really unfortunate, because it is possible. I understand all these things that seem to make it simple. You know, he was out at the park. He has a blue blazer. The 40 caliber bullet was the same as the kind of gun he had. But there's just so much confusion, so many missteps, so many problems with the case, and so many, even there's something called guilty demeanor. And I'm not talking about Richard Allen at this moment. I'm talking about the way the judge has behaved, the way the prosecution has behaved, the way that investigators have behaved, that seems to be they're trying to obfuscate something. And I think it's a data point that's worth giving heavy weight to, that he has, you know, if this guy went out to the park one day, slaughtered two just innocent girls, not even young ladies hardly, they're just girls, and then just went back to work at CVS for 5 years. No other infractions with the law, no other perverse seeming behavior. You know, that's a big anomaly in criminal behavior. You know, somebody who has a bloodlust or perversion like this typically has an urge that is cyclical. You know,
Are you a true crime follower, or do you have do you have credentials? I'm just curious.
I'm just Uncle Benny.
You're just Uncle Benny? Okay, I'm just curious because you seem pretty knowledgeable, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, I think a lot about things like this. I try to limit. In fact, after the Idaho 4 case, after this case and the Idaho 4 case, I mean, you won't hardly catch me watching a Dateline anymore. It can easily become an obsession to where, you know, you can feed on this. There's not going to be any end to crime, you know, and there's the mysteries, the intrigue there's something that captures us, you know. I think part of it is just curiosity. Part of it is just a need to solve the puzzle. You know, we want to make things right. Like when you see a picture on the wall that's crooked, it's like you just want to get it straightened out. And I found it for myself that it's like, you know, I'll like the end of a week or a month or something. How many YouTube channels, how many crimes did I look into? How many of these Datelines or 48 hours or you name it, you know, forensic, whatever. How many have I seen in my lifetime, and where is it getting me? You know, I'm not going to become a forensic scientist or anything. Anyway, I'm sorry, it's a long-winded answer to basically just say that I do have an interest in true crime, probably as much as anyone, and maybe not to the degree that I get a podcast going on it possibly, but I love the fact that we have all those now, and there's so many, the analysis that goes on, the information that you can get from sleuthers that we don't get through regular media or the news, you know.
I agree.
I think it's a powerful force, and so it's something that I don't know. I'm talking too much, but
you're
after
good.
the Idaho 4, I'm gonna try to just like, you know, go on more walks and look at the roses. You know what I mean? Just there's true crime. That's another problem I think that's not healthy with true crime. And then I'll shut up philosophizing about it. Is that, you know, we have the ability in the last 20 years to pull in news from far and wide across the globe. You know, have you heard about this one? And then zero in on just horror, you know? And I mean, you know, Nancy Grace has enough. She pulls in stuff every night, the major cases and then other stuff. And she really is an outrage queen. And why do we want to do that to ourselves? You know, it's a distorted view of the world. Sure, these things land in our communities. I actually live in Indiana, not terribly far from Delphi, actually, maybe 120 miles, maybe, but it's close to home, but it's not my next door neighbor, you know?
Right.
There has been crimes in my town that have been horrible. I forgot what it was called. And see, that's the thing. It's even in my town. I forgot it was called. But these 5 teenagers broke into this guy's house in the afternoon, and he murdered one of them. I'm sorry, he shot one of them. And then they wanted all 5 guys to be put up on murder. It was a national case for a while. That happened here. So like stuff happens, but okay, I'm talking too much. I'm sorry.
No, finish your point.
Well, yeah, back to the Delphi case. Again, I don't know whether he's guilty or not, but to kind of take another turn here, and I completely get why people sort of uncomfortable with conspiracy theorists, and they do seem to come out for everything. But I look at things like there are conspiracies. The world has been run on conspiracies. Jesus Christ being crucified was a conspiracy. Julius Caesar being killed was a conspiracy. JFK was conspiracy. I think we all could agree on that. It just conspiracies do happen, and I would consider myself, because I do acknowledge conspiracies. There are some people who 100% across the board say, conspiracy is out there. Conspiracy theorists, it's a bad word. It's a pejorative, but I believe they're conspiracy scientists. So they look at the evidence. Where does it point to? I think there's something to this Odinism thing. There's evidence for that, and I think it should have been aired out in court. Whether it casts, lets a guilty guy go free or not, I think that should be up to the skills of the lawyers, the judge, the structure of the law, and the intelligence and critical thinking of the jurors. Versus, we can't have that. It's too conspiratorial. It's too out there.
Right.
Well, the world is full of strange things and stranger people, and there are cults, and there are weird families, and there's just strange things that go on.
I'm like totally with you. I just read 2 stories in the past month of daughters that killed their mothers and baked them or boiled them in pans. So yeah, weird shit happens.
I mean, if people can do that, they can do anything. Especially, and I forgot there's a French term for it, for people who, when they meet someone, one of them is usually a little more dominant, has a psychopathy, and they bring out the psychopathy in the other one. And true crime people will know a couple serial killer types that I can't, all of a sudden I can't think of their names, but and there's a French word for it, but people can get together and all of a sudden they're going to do things they never would have done by themselves, maybe in a million years, but now they're doing things that shock the world, So anyway, I think there's something, I think it can't be just dismissed out of hand like it has been and just shuttled into the corner like, oh, that's just childish and fairy tale stuff and, up there with UFOs and Bigfoot,
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm not closed to there being, something more to this.
Yeah.
But I am very disturbed in the same way that you are, that the pedophile who's been convicted, who's spending 40 years in prison right now, was the last one to speak to Liberty German, and that was never brought up.
Yeah, that whole thing brought a lot of confusion in the case, and I wondered where that went on the whole deal, because that's a close call. Where did that go? What did that have? Did that have anything to do with it? They've never really been satisfied it didn't. Well, I'll shut up. I want to cover 2 things that are major points in this case: the bullet and the false or the confessions. Okay, and then I'll be quiet. But when the bullet first came out, the whole, we found this bullet, and then we found it in the guy's. I found the gun in the guy's thing, but the bullet hadn't been fired. There was no striations or anything like that. It was just a round that they say had been chambered and ejected.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really odd, to find a bullet at the crime scene and they weren't shot. But then when that state policeman, I forgot his name, but he did a lot of the public speaking for the longest. He was the one who got rid of the FBI.
Doug Carter.
Carter, yeah. I remember one of the interviews, and as serious as this case was, I always found him a little bit too melodramatic. And but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But on his desk was a bullet, like right in camera view, propped upright.
Really? I didn't notice that.
Gosh, I
Freak
thought more
town,
people would have
dude.
noticed that. I haven't heard anybody talking about that, and I couldn't tell you which interview it was, but I remember standing out to me, like, it just smacked to me that it was. I mean, you got to face the realities. So let's face it together. Police will drop a dime bag in somebody's car. They'll plant a drop gun. That it happens, and there's a lot of pressure to get this case solved.
Mm-hmm.
It rested on these people. It must have kept them awake at night. I can't solve this murder. I mean, I don't doubt that the guy, it's a case that would haunt him forever and everything like that. But they want to get it solved, and to get it going. How are they going to prove that they didn't plan it? It's just one of those things that this is like priming the pump. We'll get it going. We got enough other things to go on.
Yeah, the bullet. I would love to pick your brain on the bullet. The bullet, not only was it, between the girls, like, oh, he just dropped it, but it was buried, right? A couple inches.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah.
But how can you tie that to Richard Allen? Like, it's an unspent bullet. So how can you tie that to somebody?
Well, what they did was they brought this expert in that said, oh, well, when I put it through like he would have, whatever you call that, I didn't get enough. When I cycled it through the chamber, I didn't get definitive enough lines to compare. So I went ahead and shot the bullet. And then I was able to compare and, say this connects to Richard Allen, which I don't trust that personally. If I was on the jury, I'd be like, what?
May I bring it to that, being on the jury? Because I think you asked our opinion and what we would do as a jury member.
Absolutely.
If I was in that jury room, I would say, okay, these things, they're just no good. We have to throw it out. The bullet, we cannot it was not proven anything. It's
I agree.
Speculation, and there's room for doubt. It's like, okay, put that in the doubt corner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know we need to talk about it, because that's almost like we can't.
It's irrelevant.
I don't know how relevant it is, though, because there's so much room for doubt with that. Just so much room, like a barn door room,
Yeah.
And then the other thing, the false, or the confessions, alleged false confessions. This was such a travesty of justice that this guy, innocent or guilty, even if he's guilty, when people are pedophiles or they do something like this, that people love to say what they would do to them, or they should be under the prison and all these kinds of things. Americans love a hanging. We want to pin it on. We want somebody to pay the price. But this guy hadn't had his day in court, and he was sent to effectually. I know it wasn't exactly like punitive solitary confinement, as I'm hearing, but have you ever been in jail? If you've been in jail a weekend, it's horrible. And to be also in a place like that where everybody thinks that you're a child killer, and who knows what kind of treatment that beyond what we even know about, he experienced. And if he was being given psychotropic medication like Haldol, and then they get confessions out of him, there's mind control techniques. I can't. The problem is, he may have made a legitimate.
The confessions were before, though. The confessions with Kathy Allen were before the medication even happened. He said he found God and he wanted to tell the truth.
See, that's.
But do we really know?
They didn't really make that clear, in my opinion.
Right. There was some confusion on the timelines of things. I forget. I watched. I can't remember the podcaster's name, but they broke it down of like the timeline between that gal that he was the psychologist that he was seeing and the psychiatrist or neuropsychologist, something. There were two people that he was talking to, and they had different. Like one guy was in the state's rebuttal, and his timeline.
Oh, he was the one that actually administered it and met with him originally. He called the emergency meeting and brought everybody in to discuss his psychosis. But I think what Samantha's saying is that there were confessions, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there were confessions pre-delusion, during delusion, post-delusion, and it's murky. I don't have a.
His very first to the wife. And you brought up, I'm going to sit down after this because I 100% think he's guilty. But you brought up Chris Watts. I asked my mother-in-law, I explained this to her in the car. And I said, if that was your husband and he calls you and he says, I want to confess, why was Kathy Allen so quick to shut him down? If he didn't do it and he doesn't know anything about the crime and it's all going to be wrong, then why not help the police get justice for those girls? Why did she shut him up so quick? I think
Because she has
Well-
no idea
guilty-
what duress he's
guilty.
under there. Like I that's not what I think.
I would think that
she's
would be
just-
under attorney, guideline, like saying, don't talk about that on the recorded line,
Right.
regardless if he did it or not. I mean, if I was accused of something I didn't do, I wouldn't want my words used against me on a recorded line versus
No, but he's saying he did it, you know?
right. And they're
So if
saying
that-
we're not talking about this right now, like not on this recorded line. That's how I took it.
So I find the false or confessions. I gotta stop saying false confession because I believe it's likely a false confession. But again, apparently I've been under the wrong impression that it was only after he'd been gone through this psychotic episode. And I don't know whether that's the case or not.
Yeah,
But
I
let's
don't know
say,
either for sure.
let's say it was before, just to satisfy the whoever said that was beforehand and during and after or whatever. Let's say he was completely clear-minded. Most false confessions, and there are real false confessions and people in jail because of false confessions, they weren't under any they weren't in solitary confinement. They weren't accused of such a heinous crime. Let's just say it was generic murder, if I can say that. Okay. And the police got them to confess. And there's hardly any walking back from a confession, but people do it. And for most of us, it's hard to believe, how could somebody be so weak-minded to be so stupid or to admit to doing something heinous that they didn't do.
Why wouldn't he confess to the cops though? Why to his mother and his wife? That's what I struggle with.
I think they were playing
that's
mind
why
games with
watching
him.
Dr. John Jay explain it is so important, because he's a therapist, or not therapist, a doctor, but that's like his job. And Kathy Allen was so important to every step that like Richard took in his life, pleasing her, making her happy, telling her. And that's one of the things he said. Why would he lie to her? Why would he want to make her upset by initially saying he did something that he wouldn't do? Someone
Right.
with his diagnosis, his whatever, they wouldn't do that. That's out of the characteristics.
And I think where the opposition comes in is they're saying that this strong Haldol medication could have made him delusional, because he also said that he molested his daughter and she testified under oath that he didn't. So then I'm like, oh, okay. He lied about that. If her testimony, she's under oath. She said no. So then I take that and I'm like, okay, he didn't do that, but he said he did. So did he say he did other things he didn't do? So that's where that doubt comes in. And that's when you're sitting on a jury, if you have any reasonable doubt, you can't convict. But
I
personally,
think he gave false confessions to murky up his original confessions and his guilt. I'm going to step down though. I just didn't want you to be up here.
I
alone
appreciate
when
you, Samantha. Thank you for coming up and giving your insight.
All right. Thank you guys.
Have a good-
And I respect what everybody else is
You're
saying as
awesome,
well.
Samantha.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks
too,
for coming
Samantha.
up. Appreciate
All
you.
right. Bye guys.
I think it's also important to look at his demeanor, which we didn't get the privilege of seeing. His interviews with the police, where he was adamant and finally saying, if you got, just arrest me if you've got something. He was defiant, to this 180 degrees after he'd been broken down by what had been done to him. I think that's important, and it really casts doubt on the validity of his confession. And Miss Robin, it says on the screen there, says he didn't confess until after he'd been given the Haldol. So let's consider that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'd been under the impression. So if that's the case, and anybody doubts that could have something to do with it, take a Haldol, try it, and then have somebody suggest things to you and see what happens, because it is an extremely powerful drug.
It is. It's
extremely
very,
powerful.
very bad.
And
And it
people
plays a
A
lot
lot
of
of
mind
side
games on you.
effects. Yes, a lot of side
Mhm.
effects. And if you've never
Yeah.
taken it, you don't know how it's going to affect you.
Yeah. And I understand, we have to assume that the jury knows nothing, apparently, of the Odinist stuff. I don't know how they wouldn't if they were, I don't know what went on in the selection process, but the guys that were posting pictures on Facebook that had the branches and things like that, and that was never really dug into. It's just, if I was on the jury and let's say all things being equal, I thought, you know what, the family needs justice. There's enough stuff here, and let the appeals court sort it out, which I'm afraid may happen because people love the path of least resistance, right? And there are probably a few people in the jury room that are not going to be as strong on their opinions as others and kind of get like, let's just go home. We got to get unity and go home. And they convict him. Oh shoot, I just had a brain cloud. I lost my train of thought.
I just wanted to bring up a real quick point.
Sure.
That is about, I really was trying to hear about the type of person Richard Allen is. Like, was there any type of domestic violence? Does he have aggression towards women? Is he violent? Does he have acts of aggression or bad behavior, that type of thing? And that really wasn't spoken about at all. And I was hoping when Kathy Allen got on the stand, we'd get a better idea of what kind of person he was.
I'm with you. I thought it was odd there was no character witnesses at all.
Yeah,
really.
And that really threw me off because if he has no domestic violence, and for him to do what he did to these girls, or even have a thought of the R to them, it just seems like, okay, who is he? What kind of person is he? He worked, so he was a part of society. He had a wife, he had a daughter. So, and he cared about what the women in his life felt about him.
Yeah.
To me, him caring about what his mother and his wife, making sure they still loved him, to me showed that he had compassion for them. He cared about them.
And he cares about what the
thought about
community
him.
thinks about him too.
Right.
His neighbors
Right.
and everything else.
Yeah. And also is that he was on Prozac, they said, before he was put in prison. And I can tell you, with Prozac, it is a suppressant for any type of sexual desires or any type of sexual stimulation. It is a huge suppressant. And especially when you have a history of taking it for a long period of
But
time,
cricket,
which he was on.
Could that have been a factor of why there was no SA?
Exactly. That
That's
could
a
be.
good point too. I recovered my lost thought
Oh,
there.
go ahead.
Yeah, if I was on the jury and however it all worked out, we want to go home, we want to come to a verdict and not hang, and we ended up convicting the guy and letting the appeals court sort it out later if we're wrong, to come out and then find out all this stuff that we didn't know, and all this analysis, like that Andrea Burkhart, I watched a little bit of her in the evenings and stuff, and just finding out some things and analysis that you just don't know, and evidence that you weren't shown. I would be that I sent a guy to the electric chair, or to the death penalty, or to prison for life, or whatever, because I had given misinformation, or it was couched and it was hidden, I would really struggle with that. I mean, in my life, it would be really hard.
Me too.
I'd
I
feel
would
like
as
a
well.
criminal of
Yeah.
some kind myself. I'd feel like I was duped. I would, if I didn't trust the justice system beforehand, I would be an absolute rebel afterwards. Like I just wouldn't be able to stomach it. It'd be a big farce.
It would be it would be life-changing for me.
And I just thought of something else too about, in regard for reasonable doubt. They have this video of the bridge guy, which we don't know if he was really he was the guy or not, but all along I've kind of thought, well, that must be related, but they didn't. Richard Allen is distinctively short. He's like 5'4", 5'5". That's not a tall guy at all. And it stands out among the average American male. They know how big those timbers are. They can do vantage points, but the state refused to have somebody do an analysis to determine the height of bridge guy. Right there, that would have disqualified him.
I
Because
agree.
that could be down to this. That could be scientifically shown, and that's a problem for me. If I was
That guy
sitting at
looked too tall. He
you
looked
would
too tall.
never get me off of reasonable doubt sitting in that jury room on that point alone.
Did you catch
Because
that they said it was going to cost $10,000 to do
Yeah,
the
but-
measurement? And it's like, why
Yeah.
didn't you take the FBI up on it and let them utilize their resources?
Right, and we don't know why they dismissed the FBI. Other than, and again, this all hints at, or goes to guilty demeanor. It's like there's something wrong with this picture. Now, I don't know where the Odinism fits into that. I really don't know, but there are secret societies from the Masons to I don't know, you name it. I mean, there's a lot of you can shake a stick at, and the what the link is, I don't really know, but there's somebody who doesn't want the light shining in the corners for some reason. And, Richard Allen isn't the reason.
Do you think, Benny, that there is like a pedo bust going on behind this?
Well, with all we've learned in the last few years, it's become more public knowledge. Who knows? Maybe.
I mean, people are outraged right now because someone on X has released the crime scene photos. And I'm like, where was this outrage a year ago when this Mitchell Westerman was sharing them with 40, 50 people? Someone unalived themselves over it, which seems odd. Seems like there's a little more to that. And then on Halloween, Westerman's charges are dropped in the whole ordeal.
Yeah, how does that happen?
Are you talking about crime scene? The Delphi crime scene photos were leaked?
Yep. A year ago, this guy named Mitchell Westerman went into the lawyers, Baldwin and Rozzi, in their office. They had him sitting out. He took pictures of them. He shared them. There was a man from Fishers, Indiana, who received those and ultimately unalived himself after the FBI showed up at his house to question him. So I don't know if
Edders was his name. Paul Edders.
Who?
Paul Edders.
Who's that?
That's who unalived himself.
Oh, you know his name. I never heard his name before. Okay. So Paul is the one that unalived himself. So this Mitchell gets charged for leaking them. And on Halloween this year, fast forward a year, charges are dropped. He did a pretrial diversion or whatever. So it's like, that's a little odd too. And why would someone unalive themselves just because
he unalived himself during a standoff?
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Damn. So that's
weird.
There's
Makes you
more
wonder
to
like what it was on his computer or something like that.
Yes, that he was worried about, because I think he had a wife and a baby too.
Yeah.
Which everyone was not wanting to release his name back when it happened because of that. But now it must be out there. But yeah, charges dropped on Halloween, right in the midst of this trial going on.
I see a guy in the chat, Alan, that stated that you can't tell how tall Big Bridge Guy was. Well, you can. It can be figured out. That's a fact. That's enough images, still frames or whatever, and you have in real life what the height of the bridge is, what the measurements of the railroad ties are. All those things can be
a really good example. Ben, is how they did the measurements and stuff on the Idaho 4 house before ultimately tearing it down, which I don't think they should have done, but they can recreate that whole thing by taking those Faro machines and doing their scanning or whatever they do. I mean, they act like they investigated this case in 92.
So my other problem is the water, the creek, the stream, whatever you want to call it. We have no idea how high the water was that day. It's not easy with that kind of current to get across water, holding two girls at gunpoint, going across the water like that quickly, and with the slippery rocks and everything. It's not easy to do.
Well, I'll tell you this. I live in Indiana, a little further north than there, but even though if I recall, they said it was an unseasonably warm day, that water's not going to catch up. It's still going to be freezing cold, and I think I don't know how wide the point is or how deep you said it was or how fast it was racing, but to get them across on their own volition, it'd be like herding cats in a way. They're shivering and clutching themselves to, and protest and all that. I don't know. That's just
But that takes up a lot of time in the
yes, it
timeline
messes
as
with the
well.
timeline. It messes with the
Yeah.
timeline.
Their timeline
Exactly.
is a mess.
It is. Oh, I'll throw out the van thing just came to mind, which is kind of a new thing to me in the last week or so. Maybe it is to everybody. I don't know, but
The
I
van
don't
thing
put a
was
lot
new
of
to me.
significance in that. I don't put a lot of significance in that because it doesn't make sense from a lot of things that, first of all, the thing they hang their hat on is like, oh, well, he knew something that nobody else knew but
Yeah.
the person who was there.
Yeah.
Well, there's a real leak with this woman. I don't know. Was she a psychologist, psychiatrist?
The lady
The
that worked
Walla
at
lady?
Walla or whatever.
Yeah. Apparently she's feeding on podcasts and following, crime there. And he had access to her notes and files or something like that. It's a detail that could easily be explained, him coming across. And from what I understand, that guy's timeline who drove the van that's all over the place too. It's not just he left work at 2 something, was home by 2:27. There's some I don't remember the details, but there's some other things about that I heard that that threw that out. It's like there's just so much doubt
So
that
much.
this guy gets convicted. It's a bittersweet victory in my opinion, because how could you be sure?
Yeah.
I feel bad for the parents because even if he's guilty, they lose because it's not like a slam dunk. It's like, this is a mess.
Such a mess. I feel so bad for the families. I can't imagine
do
what they're
too.
thinking right now.
Well, yeah, not the victims' families, but and I'm sorry again for those of you who think he's 100% guilty. No doubt, it's really there's no question.
The Allen
I'm sorry,
family.
but I feel sorry for his families, his daughter, his wife, and his mom.
You know what else? Speaking of them, I didn't understand, and I know like putting Kathy on the stand obviously opens her up to cross, which is probably not something they want to do. But I would have liked to know more about their evening together. Like,
yes,
what
did they do that night?
Did they have dinner?
That was Valentine's Day, or day before Valentine's Day.
Day before Valentine's.
Yeah, like did they go out on Valentine's Day? Did they have a date night? Did he act normal? Ask his daughter, like, was your dad, did you notice any difference in his behavior after that day?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's an excellent
Did he seem
point.
like,
so it makes me,
was he edgy?
So it makes me wonder, did they not ask that because maybe there was? It leaves it open to, your mind going places with it. Because it seems odd to me. If he didn't have any changing behavior, it seems like that would be, a thing to bring out. Like, everybody at work, like anybody at work notice any difference in Richard? Was he late for work? Was he slacking at work? Did he seem distracted at work? That would have been great. Let's talk to his boss. Where was his boss? I mean, there's just so many pieces missing.
I agree.
The jury has gone home for the day.
But I do believe that, the defense resting earlier than what I expected must have been because of that headphone part about the headphones. Like, I felt like they didn't need to prove anymore.
They wanted to leave that open and leave on and end it on that note.
Yep.
Yeah, because it was kind of a what?
Because otherwise it would kind of get buried in the thought.
Right. That makes sense.
How it ended.
Because that was rather shocking. I mean, that was something, to me, that was more shocking than the damn van. To hear that.
You know what I've never been comfortable with? I mean, I haven't gotten into the whole, like, they were taken somewhere else then brought back, but it always did bother me that they didn't find them for so long. And it doesn't seem like if you were going to go looking for them in that park, you would have looked all down around under the bridge, all around that area. I just don't see how they weren't, if they were there, how they weren't found. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I had a hard time with that too. I agree. And they never talked about like the search grid, what was searched that day.
Why did they leave at 1 a.m? Why didn't they use like heat seeking imaging to try to find
thermal,
them?
Yeah.
Well, could have done that right away.
Weird.
That night,
And I mean, to say like, oh, Delphi is small, but this is the Indiana State Police.
And they were found not far from, was it Weber's house? So it wasn't even like they could see the crime scene from Weber's house. So I don't know. Like,
Again,
there's
so
a
many
lot about that
questions.
doesn't make sense
More
to me.
questions than answers, honestly.
I would love to know what's going on with that jury because they're obviously having some struggles, I would think, unless they're just
I
there's so
wonder
much
if
they're
they
going
feel
over.
like we do. Like, I kind of feel like, I he did it, but it's like, I don't know.
Think about this
Well, you
though.
figure it takes one. It just takes one on that jury to be like, he's guilty.
To hold him up, yeah.
Yeah.
Or not guilty.
Or not guilty.
True.
Hold it up. But the thing is, this is what I kind of, it's a sad reality that most people are going to, again, take the path of least resistance. Like they don't want to let a killer loose. They want to bring justice. And then you have these things, whether the bullet's a real deal or that he really dropped it or that confessions are all real. That's hard to get around. And it's hard for me to,
well, yeah, and the community, like you're going to be set out in your community again. So how are you going to be treated by your fellow peers?
That's a good point. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Do they even have a home to go home to? Didn't they have to sell their house?
Well, the Allens, yeah, but I mean the jurors even like they're going to be
I think
left
they're
out.
from Indianapolis, and I think because it's such a big city, they won't. That's what I heard on the news, is that they're from Indianapolis.
I don't know where the jurors came from, but if they came from another community, that's helpful.
Yeah, they came from Indianapolis.
Oh, that's good.
So that's what, few 100,000 people in that city.
Well, I will say this, and that if I was in that jury room, it would be not guilty, even if I wasn't sure he wasn't the guy. I just think there's just so much reasonable doubt. I could not convict him.
No, I couldn't either. Not based on what I heard. There's too much doubt. And it's very scary to me because what if he did do it and then he gets away with it? What's next?
Well, that speaks to the 5 years he, as far as we know, he didn't do anything else. So it would seem to be a safe bet, like that would be comforting that if found him not guilty, that he may not be that kind of repeat offender. But I also would take comfort in this, ever since Cain killed Abel, and I believe that's true stuff, we may get away with stuff in this lifetime, but we don't get away with it.
Yeah, it ends up catching up with us.
And if
karma does find you.
Yeah, I have I'm the only boy. I have a lot of sisters, and if something was to have happened to one of them like this, I've run that scenario in my mind before. What would I do? And then what if I knew the guy did it, but he got set free, on technicalities? How could I live with that? Well, I've come to know God is very real, even though I don't always live like it or realize that all the time. There are times where it's so evident that he knows what's going on. He knows how, he's the Holy Spirit's the hound of heaven. He can make things happen. People do get their just desserts. You reap what you sow.
Yeah.
And not only that, there's a day we have to give an account. And, I'm speaking from my beliefs. I know not everybody out there in the audience,
sure,
even believes there is a God, but I do.
This isn't Uncle Benny's opinion.
Yeah, this is Uncle Benny's point of view. And I would take comfort in knowing, even if I was the victim of something like that, this has happened for a reason. And it's one of these things I may not find. There'll be an answer at our journey's end.
Yeah, it's just, when it involves kids like that, I don't know, Benny. I can't lose the fact that they were talking to a now convicted pedo who was catfishing numerous girls. I don't know how much you know about Keegan Kline, but catfishing numerous girls. And he was Snapchatting with Libby and Abby until the wee hours of the night. And then the next day they want to go meet at the Monon High Bridge. And and Anthony Schatz knows that they're meeting there, right? But they did not link that, and I want to know why.
Right. That's really troubling. And then only something I only learned about just the other day, cruising through some YouTube podcasts or whatnot. Is it Cody Patty?
Yes.
Is that this? Okay. And then some remarks he made about getting somebody pregnant, and just some of this stuff. And I don't know. I don't want to besmirch the guys. I don't know him, right? I don't know anything about him other than there was enough things there to make me think, well, that's just like Keegan. It's kind of like that ties into this case somehow too. That there's more to be explored there possibly.
Well, and let's not forget that he almost looks like sketch number 4 that they had.
Yeah.
So that's weird.
And this goes to, I don't know how much of the Idaho 4 case that all of you have followed, but there's like 20 plausible, at the beginning, especially from frat boys to the ex-boyfriend to the church out there. There was just like so many possibilities, to the parents of the girl who died that lived there. There was so many possible suspects that were reasonable. It was like, who the butler did it in the drawing room with the candlestick. It was just so many things to look at. And this case is very similar. And to me, there's just so many possible avenues of where the killer came from, the killers.
I think that happens when things are sealed and we get half truths, but it was really disheartening to me to find out that they actually lied in the probable cause affidavit. I just don't think that's right about the bullet, saying they had an identical match, because they didn't. That was totally embellished. And I don't think they should be able to do that.
No.
That just seems really, really hokey to me. And another thing is, they hold on to this bullet being in this little Hope treasure box or whatever they call it. The little keepsake box that was on the Allen's dresser. It had a .40 caliber bullet in it. What was so special about that bullet? Like, great. Tell me he had a bullet in a little box in his room, but tell me the significance of it. Tell me how that ties him to Abby and Libby, because I don't see it. Why would he keep that bullet? There was obviously one left at the scene. So wouldn't that be the keepsake bullet, if you will? None of it makes sense. What do you think of that whole thing with the keepsake and the bullet? And
well, I have guns, and I don't go to the shooting range, rarely, right? But I've got a certain caliber gun that I have, like, I haven't bought bullets for it in 20 years. And I've got the bullets. There's like 9 or 10 of them. I have them in a little, like the little tins that you get cookies in and stuff. Okay. So it's a little decorative 10. And I just have them in there because if they're in the little clip or magazine or whichever it is, it keeps the spring compressed, and I didn't want to mess up the spring because it's like a semi-automatic, it'll feed it if you click the trigger. But let's say somebody was killed by that caliber bullet around here, the same make bullet, which is a common brand. And then somebody pointed at me and they found that same kind of bullet. Well, it's really meaningless, unless you can prove that the bullet that killed somebody went through my gun for real,
Yeah.
So my point is that, if a guy has guns or has bullets, let's say he had a bullet in his pocket and the little memory box was on top of the dresser in the master bedroom.
He's emptying out his jeans pocket and he throws it in.
Yeah, he's just going to pop it in the box. I mean, I'm a guy, I'm not going to worry about it. It's a memory box. It's just a place the thing's not going to roll off on.
Dude, I have random shit thrown in little spots, No, right. It's just weird. The things that, they seem to want to be damning.
But for people who don't think critically, when they hear, oh, he had a almost identical bullet in his memory box,
right.
Like, oh,
bing
he's
bong,
thinking about crime. Yeah, it's like it doesn't mean anything,
So my friend has guns in his house and stuff, and I know he doesn't have them with ammo in them, so he has though ammo like around the house. So if something were to, God forbid, happen, he would be in a situation where he would have access to a bullet if he needed to put in his gun for protection. That's what I'm talking about. So I don't see that as odd either.
I'd be interested in knowing in your audience here. I don't know how many people are listening to your cast, but if this discussion's helped anybody go one way or the other and their thoughts are changed at all.
Yeah, let us know. I know everyone's enjoying it. enjoying the conversation. Donnie says maybe that bullet was stuck in the chamber, or it could have been a bullet that he might have attempted to unalive himself. Remember, he was going to do that, someone said. I mean, it could
and that could be a reminder. It could be a reminder piece that some people do. They just need to be reminded. It's a psycho thing. You know, psycho, like it's a mental thing. I shouldn't say psycho. It's a mental thing. You know, like I look at this every day and I remember why I'm here.
Yeah.
And what I have the ability to do, but I'm not going to do it
today.
See,
and that's the problem. If they were going to bring that up, that he had that, I feel like they needed to do a better job giving us the significance of that bullet, because right now it's nothing. So we're left with our own interpretation. So if I'm on the jury, I'm like, well, they didn't really tell me the significance of that bullet. That could have been his dad's bullet. And it could have been something he was saving. Who the fuck knows?
I saw Bad Girl mention something about the cat hair. It's not something I'd completely forgotten about. But when they first raided his house, that trickled out somewhere around that time that they dug up a dead cat or something like that had hairs that matched at the crime scene. But I haven't heard anything about that since. But Bad Girl asked about that. Does anybody know anything about that?
Say that again. I'm sorry, I was reading.
So Bad Girl said, "What about the cat hairs or something?" I don't know. It's scrolled up now.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And I've forgotten all about that. But does anybody know any more about that?
I remember they dug something up in his backyard, and I thought it was like dead cats that the Allens had buried. Never heard anything more about it. When they first searched his house, they were digging.
But that was the word on the street at the time, and I remember it was like, oh, well, they got their guy because, like, if they matched the cat hairs, I mean, it was sort of sensational.
Yeah, and then there was no talk of any animal hair.
Yeah, that went away. You know,
I had something in my mind of something else that went away. Oh, I know what it was. When they searched his home, if you look at the search warrant, they actually cut a piece of carpeting out of the car. So, what happened with that? That was definitely in the search warrant, that they cut a piece of the carpet out of his car, and I never heard any results from that. Plus, they said they had the Carhartt jacket that Bridge guy was wearing that day.
Another data point that I haven't heard a lot of talk about, some but not a lot, but I would give a lot of weight to. Notwithstanding, I don't have a lot of access to the evidence, the actual evidence or crime scene photos, but just the fact that both of them they died by basically exsanguination. You know, they bled to death, they bled out. And one of them apparently didn't have blood around him or under him, you know. Mm-hmm. But, if I cut my finger, man, it's unbelievable how much blood that can come out of the smallest cut.
Dude, the Idaho 4 house was bleeding.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's so much blood that comes out and it gets everywhere. You know, there was I don't know if the car was the same one he had in 2017, but there is no DNA, just like Brian Koberger, if there's no DNA evidence, I mean, it's hard to clean up blood. You know, I don't know, that's a problem for me. It's just like, where did all the blood go from one of the girls? And if none of their DNA is tied to him whatsoever, either way, his DNA there or any of theirs on any of his belongings, any of his possessions, in his car, anywhere, even after years, because DNA can last, that's a big problem to me. As far as that's a reasonable doubt, that's in the reasonable doubt camp, you know.
Well, and the other thing is, if you're a killer and you've just done this atrocious murder, would you really keep the jacket? Would you really keep the jacket?
And how do they know it's the same jacket?
Yeah.
You know, another thing that's...
Are you saying because he had the same jacket at his house?
Yeah, they said they collected a blue Carhartt jacket from that night.
Yeah, I mean, if you kill two... I mean, first of all, you're going to have to...
What happened to the muddy and bloody witness?
You're going to have to... If you're going to, reach around somebody's throat and cut their throat, you are physical with that person. There's just no way around it.
Well, that one lady said he was muddy and bloody. So wouldn't that coat have been muddy and bloody? And if so, where did he wash it? Did Kathy Allen notice him doing any laundry?
That'd be another good question for your interview with Kathy.
Right.
Even his shoes would have some sort of blood somewhere. some spot on
Somewhere.
the shoelace somewhere.
Let me ask you guys this. I don't remember who was talking about it. Oh, I know. She's a profiler. She has a YouTube and she's covering this case. I forgot her name, but she's kind of famous. And she believes that
Oh,
there
Pat
ought
Brown?
to be Pat Brown.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
watch her.
She believes there ought to be professional jurors. Now, I never really thought of that myself. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, but I do get what she's saying, because I got to tell you, I don't know a lot of critical thinkers, and that's what it really takes, to sort through stuff like this. And what do you guys think about that? Professional jurors.
I don't like it.
I don't either.
I think they can be
But
too skewed.
yeah,
I
just like-
appreciated the fact that it sounded like they had somebody on the jury, though, that knew enough about phones and data.
Yeah, they asked some good questions about
So
that.
they had some really good questions. So I was thankful for that.
I didn't hear what their questions were. What were they asking?
I don't remember off the
It was
top of my head.
it was specific questions about the headphones being plugged in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they asked if it could be from water damage. That question was
Right,
asked by them.
and the phone call coming in at the same time
Oh,
that
yeah.
the headphone
I don't like that.
engaged.
Why did we not know who was calling? Most likely a family member, because they were looking for them. But mere milliseconds, they said, milliseconds after the phone started to ring, the headphone jack was engaged. So it was
Now,
either
at first I heard headphones, but then I heard it was something was plugged in. Didn't necessarily have to be headphones. Something was
the lady
attached
who
to the device.
testified said that it was, and this was the FBI analyst who did it. She said that in the data log, this is what got me. In two different places in the data log, it said wired headphones.
Yeah, you can't lie about that. There's no way you can't.
So I was wondering, because I had an iPhone back then, an older iPhone, and I did get it wet, and the little stupid headphone little icon was there, and my sound was messed up. I couldn't hear out of it because I got it wet. So I'm just wondering, would that also pop up in a log? Would it trick the phone to think those were wired headphones or no? Like, I would need to go deeper. Does the shorting, though, make it show up in the data log as well? Because it's showing on your phone that the headphones are in, because you get the little headphone icon. So
your experience with that, coupled with the fact I can't think of a reason somebody would plug in a headphone at those times, that makes a lot of. I would lean towards that. Now, if it was somebody made it sound to me, and maybe reading comments or whatnot, that it was, like how you have the USB port thing or whatever, the power deal that you can plug into your computer and download stuff. If they didn't know exactly what was plugged in, if it was just something attached to one of the ports, that would make sense, because I could see, again, maybe one of the reasons they were killed, maybe there was something on one of the phones that somebody wanted to kill them and get it off their phone, that would be. But if it was wet and you've had the same experience with the same model phone, I dismiss that as that's probably what it was.
The only thing that gets me about it, though, Benny, is the fact that it disengaged at 10:30. So it was only like that for 5 hours. Now, I, rushed to put my phone in rice when that happened,
right,
to get and I don't recall now if I was able to fix it or not. But for it to do that at 5:30 in the afternoon, which would kind of make sense, if they went through the water and it got wet and it took that long to kind of, immerse itself into the phone mechanism. But for it to disengage and look like it was unplugged at 10:30 and it never engages again with that plug, that's what's weird to me. But why, like you said, would someone plug in headphones for 5 hours?
Yeah, that's weird. What do you think of the crime scene as we're told it is? Like, where I think it was Libby that was dressed in Abby's clothes, like the killer made her dress in the other one's clothes. And then they were covered apparently with branches, and then there was the arguably the symbol on the tree, or it could have just been, a smear.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Can I just say I saw the crime scene photo today on X, and it looks staged to me. If those were the real photo, and I think they are because Nancy Grace and her cohorts are trying to get them removed, and this person reported. But it looks very staged and very, very weird to me.
You mean like somebody did these things purposefully?
Yeah, for sure. What's really weird to me is Abby has one shoe on and one shoe off. So do we think that maybe she was trying to dress? Did she do that herself, or did the killer do it? Because she's got one shoe on. Why would a killer put a shoe back on?
Yeah, that's weird.
The weird thing is how they described her arms. Her hands are inside the sleeves of the Delphi sweatshirt, and you can't see her hands. Like maybe the sleeves were long. You know how you wear the sweatshirt over your hands, but her arms are strategically placed. They're bent. One fist is underneath each, like underneath her chin. And I just don't know how someone would naturally, unless they're.
What about the legs, Jay? Were they in was one leg up?
Well,
each of them?
Abby has one leg bent and it's underneath the straight leg. So I don't know. I mean, could her.
Kind of like crooked where your ankle would be under your knee type of thing?
Yeah. But more towards the ankle.
Oh, okay.
But then these sticks, they're not really sticks. They're more like logs. Like, there's one stick that goes across her entire, shoulders, under her neck even. It's like right underneath her chin, and it goes across her whole entire body. And then the other one that's laying like long ways over her body is a bigger branch. It's like a branch. I would describe it like a tree branch off an older tree.
One's going laterally across her neck, like shoulder wise, and the other one's going vertically from like stem to stern.
Yep. And then there's another one that's making like a star.
That would be like a cross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks weird.
The star pattern, it looks like, right?
Yeah, it's like a star pattern, like those two cross, and then there's one that goes across where those two meet on another angle, which makes it like a star.
So why, when Richard Allen was confessing, did they not ask him about that?
Yeah, or why didn't he say anything about what the girls?
Okay, there's another thing that's weird. Now that I'm zooming in on these branches, one end,
like he never says.
Do you remember they said in the court documents that they put out about the Odinism that those branches looked cut with a saw?
Yeah.
There is the one that makes the star. It looks like it has a pretty, like there's not jagged edge where it's cut. Like the bigger branch looks like it was broken off a tree. This one has like a more flat cut look, if you will. But then on Libby, dude, there's even a bigger log. I mean, I would call that one a damn log across her shoulder. And then there's smaller ones on top of that.
Where do I find these on X?
It's what's his name? Hang on. I'll put it in the back.
And I know they talked about the blood looking like it went upwards, or like they were elevated somehow.
What is?
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
The blood on their face, like it's going upwards.
Oh, I can't see that in this one. Whatever this, it's called BC Bills Fan, all one word. BCBILLSFAN. So they blocked Cheryl McCollum. See, Nancy and Cheryl are trying to get these down.
I'm still trying to find my password I haven't used Twitter since it was Twitter.
And Dr. Wella, I'm surprised she didn't have a conversation with him Here,
I'll share the link in the back chat.
If he did admit it, which he did, but like what did Abby and Libby say to you? Did they try to say something to you? Were they crying? Were they, did you put something across their mouth to keep them from screaming? Like what all transpired?
I mean, if you don't want to see these, I don't recommend you go look at his channel or his thing because they're still up. I just put it in chat. He's got Trump as his picture. BC Bills fan.
Okay. Just a moment.
I'm not gonna share these. Oh, they put it behind a thing now. Okay. They have a warning. Before it wasn't like that. When I went to their thing, it was just there.
Okay. I found it. I got to find the pictures now. I'm only doing this because we're talking about it. A little bit apprehensive.
Wow. So their website that it's on is a John Benet Ramsey.
Oh, I see. Justice for John Benet.
Yeah. I'll put the link in the chat. Hold on. I just sent it to myself. So it's a Justice for John Benet Ramsey blog spot. If y'all want to go to their website, that's it. If you don't want to see it, don't go. Because they do have them on their website.
Okay. I'm starting to see it now.
It looks very staged to me.
Yeah, they almost look like mannequins.
Yeah, I thought the second picture was actually a drawing until I really looked at it. It's so disturbing.
The one with the naked?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is disturbing.
It's so disturbing. But if you're looking at it from a standpoint of was it staged or was it not, what do you think?
Well, that's why I pulled this up is to kind of, first of all, this is the first, like when you start talking about logs versus branches and sticks, I've only heard them described as branches and seen some sketches, and this is not what I've been shown before.
They're bigger, aren't they? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do see there's like what you're talking about, like a star pattern and
yeah, then if you look at the second one of Libby, look at the big, huge branch. And then there's all those smaller ones in they're like in a form.
Just so I'm clear, Libby's
the bottom.
Abby's dressed, right? And Libby's not?
Yes.
Okay.
Or you can call it top and bottom. It just looks very odd.
Also got pictures of those other guys that are, alleged to be Odinist, and so this falls into that, and they are scary looking dudes.
Yeah, I dug into that. And they do look like Bridge Guy. There's a lot of people that do look like Bridge Guy.
Even the fact that somebody would be so heartless is like they made jokes about being accused of it, and they almost are playing like, haha, you can't catch me. But they're doing it in like from the sense of like, oh, you got the wrong guy, but they're also like making light of this whole thing. That's really hard-hearted,
Yeah.
Okay, this guy has do you see the picture? Like I've looked through those pictures. You see the dude? I think he's one of the main dudes that's been accused. He's got like the Odinist symbol, the 3 triangles, and then it says heathen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, I sure do.
Then you see the gun and the knives. The knives. Wow, I have never seen this stuff before. This is even more compelling to me.
Yeah, you'll have
and
to
what's
look
really
at
sad
the site,
is that can you imagine if they gave, let's say they threw everything Richard Allen did, lock, stock, and barrel, hardly any objections to it by the defense, but then they add this to the mix. Who would you choose?
I know.
That's I'm sorry for people who can't.
Well, it's really wild because you have this aspect, right, that we're looking at here, but then you have the whole Keegan Kline aspect, which doesn't seem to connect to these guys.
Right. I don't know. That's just weird. Mm-hmm. Could be a coincidence. I don't know.
It could be. Could it be a coincidence that Keegan Kline, the perv that he is, was talking to these girls and they just so happened to meet this fate within hours of talking to him? I guess it's possible. Is it probable?
There are people. I grew up in the satanic panic times, like in 80s.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about this, but, people have always associated Satanism and witchcraft and sacrifices, whether it's animal or human, with with and blood, with getting power and getting what they want. And whether they believe it for real or not, they'll mess with it. They'll play with it. They'll play with Ouija boards and things, And this is not the Ouija board, but I can see people, this may be as far as they ever went. They finally went to real, maybe they killed animals before, and then they finally did this. But my point is not whether or not this happened here, but for people who just say this, oh, that's just crazy talk. It's not. There are people who are into this stuff. They're into weird, dark arts, and who knows where that'll lead them.
And nothing brought up about the Odinism patches that were on the corrections officers that they had to remove.
Yeah, I found that a weird. That's another thing that lent credibility to this. That these people were in the prison. They're displaying that, and that's in the prison that he was sent to. There's plenty of other places he could have been safer at than Westville prison.
They put him in the worst possible prison.
Yeah, that itself to me, again, it's guilty to me. It's weird. It's weird.
I was looking for that creep factor with Richard Allen. I was waiting for his Google searches to come back that he was going to be like Rex Heuermann or something, with these off the wall, like demented or pedo searches, and all it was, they were a little off, but it was just about movies. So it really wasn't damning to me.
I just came across something that's pretty mind blowing. Are you still on X?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm on that. Well, it took me to that website that you told me about, right?
Right.
And picture 26. If you have the little thumbnails across the bottom.
Hold on, let me open that up again. Okay, picture 26. I don't have thumbnails.
Okay. Well, you saw that picture with the heathen.
Yep.
Then if you keep going to the next one, like there's a bunch of guys.
Yep.
That stand outside like a.
Yeah.
Then there's
see that
one dude. Then there's it's like the magician and the hanged man. These cards.
The tarot card. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look at the pictures next to him. With those.
How the body is.
Well, I don't know if those are supposed to be the bodies or if these are something to do with those cards, because it looks like the way the bodies are with the sticks.
Yeah. So on the far right, I'm assuming that's like a drawing of what Abby.
Okay. So that's that doesn't have to do with the card. That's just showing you
how she was laid. And then the card, the hanged man, they're showing that
the card had those sticks on it like that.
But they're showing the leg. See how the leg is tucked under?
Yeah. Well, to me, that's meaningful.
The other thing that's odd about Abby's positioning and everything is underneath her was a shoe, Libby's shoe, and then the phone was under the shoe. How do did they drag her? Was there a shoe? And it ended up underneath her. It's such a hodgepodge.
Okay, I found the tree with the blood on it. I'm pretty sure.
Is it the actual tree?
I'm pretty sure.
How far down?
If I could jump in with the phone.
Hey, boss lady, how you doing? Yeah,
great. How are you?
I'm good. Jump on in.
Awesome. So I've been watching your show for a long time, so kind of excited to talk to you. But the phone thing, so my theory with that is I feel like she was running away and it may have dropped. And then that's how it got underneath her. Because like I have not seen the pictures that you are describing, but I feel like it almost looks like she was trying to dress herself to run away.
That's what I thought too.
And then maybe the phone fell, he didn't see it. And then, the water thing. So I've actually had a phone do that where now I don't know what it would say, if you were to pull, records like the police would do. But I do know that when water gets into the port, it can say something crazy is going on with the phone that it's not. So that's possible. but it being underneath her body, and then the shoe and having different clothes on, then, it to me, it seems like a frantic trying to dress and run away, and then maybe the phone fell like underneath her.
Could be.
That's reasonable to me.
But I was thinking about the whole like dressing in a hurry, throwing on Libby's clothes. But would you really do that if your friend was being slaughtered? Like, would you really get dressed, or would you be fight or flight, and would you just take off? I mean,
True.
I know everybody
and
wants to say, they stayed together, but was it really by choice? Because no one could blame one for running while the other one's, getting attacked. But I feel like that would be it would take a lot of forethought that maybe you wouldn't have right then. What do you think of that?
I mean, yes, it does. And I mean, unless he walked away for some reason and she
like hurried up,
thought he was gone and was trying to hurt and get out of there. I mean, it's a 13, 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Logical thinking may not kick in. The thinking is, I'm naked and I need to get away from here, and embarrassment, So I think there's so many thoughts that would run through her head.
Mm-hmm.
And, just to your point though, I mean, the first thing you would want to do is just bolt out of there, right? But what if he, walked away for whatever reason and then came back? I mean, there's so many different ways to it. But at the same time, I feel like there was more than one person involved with this.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I don't feel like this was a one person crime scene.
Yeah, I am taking calls, Ophelia. The link is pinned in the chat.
Yeah, I have a problem with if they're murdered with the knife, how one could, you can only murder one at a time.
Right.
How could a 5'4", 5'5" guy manage two hysterical girls?
Absolutely agree. And one of them is going to just stand there and watch.
Right.
But what if he's holding a gun? What if he's holding a gun though? In all reality, if you're 13 and 14, at what point, if your friend's getting attacked with a knife, are you going to scream or yell, help, something?
Exactly. And none of that was heard. Broad daylight, many people around there. No one heard screaming. At the very least, the girl that was not being physically attacked in that moment would have been screaming. And none of that was heard by anybody.
Andrea Burkhart made that point last night or the night before. Like, no one, there was no scream, but at that point, what do you have to lose? Like why was there no scream? I mean, it seems more credible. Somebody else would be holding that person with their hand around their mouth.
Yeah.
Even if you had a gun.
No defense wounds, they said. No, like there was it didn't appear that the girls fought.
Right.
Yeah.
That blew my mind.
That speaks to restraint.
And to me, that just seems more plausible with more than one person.
To be honest with you guys, I could see Richard Allen. I mean, just looking at his stature and his age and everything, I could almost see him like falling down on his ass going down the hill.
Right. Absolutely agree.
And them being able to get away.
When you look at pictures from him, years ago, he was in, a little bit better shape and things, but his stature, to your point, he has shorter legs, long torso, being able to control these two, 12 and 13-year-old girls without having them scream. Neither of them really runs. If they do run, she didn't run very far. Not being seen by anybody. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And personally, I feel like trials you're supposed to leave trials with a lot more answers. But to me, all this has done is raise more questions.
Excellent point. Yeah.
100%.
There's way too many questions that have not been answered. I mean, one of my issues I have is the DNA. Because, like I said, I have not seen the videos, but from what's been described, not to be, too graphic, but they lost a lot of blood, right? And being able to physically hold one of them to do what he did to their throat, the other one not run, not scream, nothing, do it to that one, stage it however, if he staged it or if he threw brain stitches to hide them, whatever the reason was, and then not be able to find a speck of DNA anywhere in the crease of his jacket that could have been found 5 years later. There are ways to get DNA just in the crease of the jacket. If he left there, got into his vehicle and went home, that car should have some type of DNA.
Absolutely.
And the fibers of the carpet, in the crease of the car, if there was that much blood, how were they not ever able to find any DNA anywhere that connects him?
Well, and you mentioned fibers. That was a great point about fiber evidence, because that's convicted many a killer.
Absolutely.
And even if you vacuum that car over the last 5 years, you detailed it once a month or whatever, you're not going to get every fiber.
Absolutely not. No, and the crease of the steering wheel, just little areas that you wouldn't think of.
Right.
DNA has been found and convicting a lot of people.
I mean, look at what they're doing in the dang Scott Peterson and Lacey Peterson case. They're taking the DNA from this burned out van all these years later and testing it. The thing is, and they took a chunk of Richard Allen's carpet from his car, and all I can assume is that there was nothing on it, or they would have brought it up, right?
Right. And was it?
Go ahead.
Who was the guy? Was it Elvis or who? Who was it that made the comment, "If I spit on the girls, will that get me in trouble?"
That was Elvis.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, for me personally, I'm really glad I'm not on this jury.
Same.
Because there's just so much that was not allowed in, and things like that are important. Not having a third party being allowed, forget the Odinism, okay? Let's just say they didn't even bring that up. There were still other third party possibilities that could have been brought in that make a lot of sense. So why would an individual say, after these girls are found the way that they are found, why would he say, "If I spit on them, will that get me in trouble?" They found male DNA of unknown origin. That just kind of makes sense, right? It doesn't. There's so many things with the third party piece of this that I feel like is wrong, that it was not allowed in.
Again, that's a great point about the Elvis, his remark. If they're going to give so much credence to a confession that is arguably induced or suggested, or a false confession, then a guy like that making that weird comment, they have to give that weight, and they didn't. They didn't
completely
give it
agree.
And that, to me, again goes, don't put this in a drawer. Guilty demeanor. It works both ways, not just for a suspect, but for law enforcement. The way they've
Absolutely.
acted, it's a guilty demeanor that they did not. They didn't make a thing of that.
No, but they put so much weight in his. Yeah, they put so much weight in his confessions.
In his words, yeah, but that.
But you don't put weight in his other guys' words. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't fly with me.
No.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Hey, Jeeper Girl and Spoogies, welcome to the panel.
Hi.
What's on your mind?
I'm gonna step off. This has been great. Thanks, Jay.
Hey, no problem. Anytime, Uncle Benny. It's been a pleasure.
I'm gonna leave room for other people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely.
Are you able to hear me?
Jeeper Girl?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry,
Okay.
Benny was hopping down.
No, that's okay. I see so many people commenting in not just your live chat, but of course this case has been going on for years. So about how one person couldn't possibly do this. And there are so many cases out there. For one that comes to mind is Richard Speck from Chicago, who killed the 8 nurses, raped and killed them one at a time. He was one person and he had all those people under control. It's easy to look at it from an outside perspective and go, "Oh no, one person couldn't do that." But you don't know. They talked about how short he is, his height, his stature. To a young girl like that, and he has a gun, and the girl doesn't know. This child does not know if it's loaded or not. They do understand that guns are a real threat. that they can't outrun a bullet. And the two of them were probably in a state of panic. I've been a victim of a lot of crimes, so I can identify with the mindset that you're in, where I always thought, oh, if I'm ever in that situation, I would have did this or that.
Yes.
But when you're actually in there, your fight or flight response is so strong that
It's almost like frozen in fear.
yes, it's like your
The
thought
frozen
process.
shock phase, just like
You're
Everything
not
kind of
shuts
able
down.
to, yeah, the whole point of fight or flight is there's no rational thinking. It's
Right.
just boom. Now, rational thinking, of course, we could go, oh yeah, no, this or that. He could easily overpower and control those girls. Now, the thing to me when I saw the crime scene photos of them with the sticks, for me being a true crime is just a big passion for me because I have been a victim of a lot of crimes. I love hearing about justice being served or what victims or survivors or families of victims do to go on. It's very inspiring to me. So true crime has I'm attracted to it for those reasons. And a lot of cases I've seen, the way that the sticks are on uh oh my goodness, I'm having a brain fart.
it's okay.
Abigail. Abigail was one that had that was completely nude, right?
No, that was
Or was it?
Libby.
No, it was Abby. That was Abby. They're both A names. Sorry. So Abby, if you look the way they are, it's a lot of times killers to humiliate a victim. They will pose them in certain ways, or they will put certain things in their hands, or place certain things on their bodies, or over their faces to take away their identity or whatnot. And when I first saw that picture of Abby, the first thing I thought was, wow, this guy is the way the sticks are pointed down toward her genital area, and then the way it's boxed. It's like a box over her
Okay,
breast
you're talking
area.
about Libby. Libby
Libby.
is the one that was found nude, and Abby
Yes,
is
thank you. I got them mixed
it's
up.
okay.
So
I
sorry.
used to get them mixed up. It's been a lot of years.
Yeah, it's Libby.
Libby and
So
Abby.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
The
I look at
box.
those,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't see a cultish thing. I don't see anything like that. Just no, this is just my personal opinion. But to me, the way that the sticks are on her body is to exaggerate or emphasize you looking in those areas, like to humiliate her. And a lot of times when there's two victims and one is clothed or partially clothed and the other one is not, it's because the other one put up the most fight. They had the most resentment with them and they wanted to humiliate them. I don't I would imagine because of the way that one was dressed and one was not, and he had talked about being interrupted. If it's not Richard Allen who did it, whoever was doing it could have been interrupted. He tried to start on Libby and wasn't able to do it because of the van going by or anyone else. If it's not Richard Allen's testimony or what was said in the about the case, that he must have, cut Libby to to eliminate her, and then was like, put some clothes on. He was going to move.
Move her. Yeah.
Abby, thank you. Sorry, I have chemo
So get your
brain,
clothes, like get your clothes on, type thing.
Yeah, get your clothes on. Get your clothes on. Let's go. Because
They were going to
he was
leave her
done
there.
with Libby. Yeah, he was done with Libby. He couldn't. It was too late. Now he's got, and she may not have. She may have. Have been trying to make her undress, or do. So she was halfway through. But that's given other crime cases I've heard of or whatnot. That sounds a lot. Like in my mind when I'm thinking about it, I see the sticks placed over the body like that as a way to emphasize those areas, especially the way it's kind of like boxed around her upper chest.
Now that you say that, I find that really interesting because you're right. She's boxed across her shoulders.
Yep.
And then it actually kind of veers in, like you
into
said.
a V, like her privates. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
And there are cases where people have used items like that to emphasize or drawn, like, or just painted or just did something. There's so many cases like that to further humiliate the victim. And to me, that is the first instinct that I got just off of what I've seen before. I am not a professional. I am just a regular person. This is just an opinion.
No, and I
But I
appreciate
do
that.
Do
think
you
the
think it was
reason
Richard Allen?
I do. I really do. And the reason, okay, I know that
Can I
I know,
actually jump in before we move on?
Yes,
Because
sure.
sorry.
I'm so sorry, but what you're
No.
talking about is exactly why I wanted to join the panel, actually. So, the images, unfortunately, I have also seen them. And what I gathered from that image is kind of touching on what you're saying, but different. I feel like whoever did this wanted to expose Libby exactly as she was, nude, spread open, like totally take away all of her dignity. And then you look at Abby, and I think this is someone who knew Abby. This is someone who semi cared about Abby because they didn't leave her open and exposed like that. They redressed her. And I don't think it was a situation of, oh, get on your clothes, because someone was saying she was wearing both bras. So someone
Mhm.
had taken the time to put each individual item on her to include 2 bras. She wouldn't have put on 2 bras herself. But, yeah, I
Unless
think
he said put
seeing
them on because he didn't want anything
I
left behind. I don't know.
I guess maybe,
It's
but
weird
I
though.
mean,
It
for
doesn't make
me,
sense.
looking at that, it looks like someone knew Abby. That's what I get from it, and they wanted to embarrass Libby and not Abby.
Yeah, it was
So
personal.
with
Yeah.
Richard's story, there in his confessions, and personally, my personal opinion is that he was saying, I feel like he was saying what they wanted to hear to get out of solitary confinement. That's just my opinion with it. But the reason I say that is, if his story is that he was going to assault them, and he saw the van and got spooked and killed them instead, why would that be the solution? That would,
Right. I thought the
like,
same thing. Why is
right?
that the
Like,
alternative? Why wouldn't you just
exactly.
leave?
Right, just leave. Exactly. Right. Now, it could be because they saw him and they could identify him, and, it could be that type of thing, but that takes longer than what your original purpose was. So to me, that story doesn't make any sense. And so my question to you about it being done in a way to humiliate her, would that have been, in your opinion, and kind of how you're thinking about it, the whole point of getting them down there instead of assaulting
No.
them, essentially?
Yeah, no, I think because that it was a build from when a killer or somebody is trying, or someone who's an attacker is trying to humiliate the victim, and it becomes personal, and the way that it's clearly the 2 girls were handled very differently, that I
Mhm.
believe that it's a build up during the whole interaction from the time that they initially interact to the moment that they leave the scene, that they build they your adrenaline in that moment must be running so high. And you're he had to have been so nervous and just hyper aware and hypersensitive to every sound and everything, because he's trying to control 2 people. And
And not
there
get
are
caught at the same time.
Yes, and, we cannot, whether it's Richard Allen or not, whoever is involved in a crime like this, I would imagine that even seeing a vehicle, like, pass by, your panic would be like, "Oh, oh, no, oh, no," most people have dash cams on their cars, whatever.
Mhm.
Who knows what he was thinking, or the killer was thinking at that time, but for you to when you were saying that you think it would take more time, again, that's a rational thinking, and I believe that this was this person's first time doing something like this, because it was so sloppily compared to other people who do these things, who have an MO, that he does. I would imagine that the killer just freaked out as much as, I mean,
It was the irrational thought
yeah,
and
yeah, that
process.
fight or flight. Yeah,
Yes.
like that same, they're all in that same way of thinking, and that is why a lot of um, uh, you'll hear sometimes criminals who do things like this, and they'll say, "Oh, I watch a lot of shows. I know what not to do and what to do," and they say things like that. But yeah, because you are probably rationally planning this crime out, rationally thinking, and then what happens every time they do the crime, they screw up somewhere because you aren't rationally thinking. You are in the moment, you are in panic mode, you're in this rush, adrenaline rush. So I think that could have a big part, just going off of what other people have, other criminals have explained or whatnot. And the reason
Yeah.
why you did bring up a good point. I just want to point out real quick about the confessions and about being in solitary. I would believe that if there was improvement to his circumstances every time that he confessed. And there's 60 known confessions that I remember recalling. If I'm wrong, please correct me because I don't have data in front of me on it. But what I remember is they said there was 60. So
They say, but they didn't show 60.
yeah, they say. So even if it was 20 confessions, at some point, if he's doing these confessions and he's insisting to his family to the point that they hang up on him because they're like, no, that's not true. His conditions would have improved. But they didn't. And no matter how much he confessed, it seems his conditions did not improve to a point for that to work. There has to be some give and take here. If he's confessing, where's the reward from it?
I have
There
a
is none.
point.
Yeah, please.
The Wallach confession that was miraculously detailed and narrated like a story, despite it sounding completely different from all his other confessions. Once they got that one in with actual detail in this van, they thought, oh, that's something no one else would know. Then that's when he started like being treated better. He was eventually moved to the other place, and then so after the Wallach confession is when they started treating him better.
I mean, I kind of agree. I kind of feel like he was trying to give them what they wanted to hear and nothing was working. So he kept trying. And honestly, too, it may not have been a forced thought thing. And I do feel that he was in some type of, psychosis, and we don't know what the guards or anybody else was saying to him. And I think that it's possible that they may have convinced him that he did something. He went into this already with anxiety and depression and dependent personality disorders. And so I think it's possible that at one point he thought maybe he did and forgot. I am not... Here's my thought with this entire thing is that I'm not saying that he's innocent by any means. I just feel like they have not proven it beyond a reasonable doubt. And, something else too, whenever you were talking about the buildup, right, so of the crime scene, and that's a good point, is because you may have irrational thought, it builds up into irrational thinking, but it makes sense in the moment, right?
Yeah.
So another thing about buildup is typically criminals start small and work their way up. So my question would be is, one, does he have even though he doesn't have a criminal record, doesn't mean he hasn't done anything bad. It just means he hasn't gotten caught. So has he done other things previously and has worked his way up to the killings?
Well, I was wondering that about the cats.
Yeah, animals is typically what they start on. Animals is very typical, and then they
what happened with the cats? I'm sorry, I don't know about the cats.
I just know that the Allens lost a few cats and they were buried in their backyard. And when they first searched his home, they were digging in the backyard, and there was something, and that was where the animal hair came from, that we thought there was going to be animal hair found on one of the bodies or near the bodies that would connect him. That's why people thought that.
Did they say that it looked like the cats were killed? Because I have an animal in my backyard. That doesn't mean
no idea. We never. Literally, we got no.
But it is a question,
right?
It is absolutely still a question, right? And so has he done things like that? Has he, has there been any other type of assault in the past that he just hasn't gotten caught for, and it's built up into these killings. It's not typical for anyone to go from a law-abiding citizen, never even having a ticket, maybe having a parking ticket, never getting arrested for anything, to flip into doing what I don't want to be in detail, but doing what they did to these two girls. That was horrendous. That's
the thing
another part for
is,
me too.
yeah, the thing is opportunity. Motive and opportunity is the biggest thing. When an opportunity presents itself and you feel that like I said, that adrenaline rush of just excitement and like, oh, people that you would never think would do something, they end up doing it. I don't think that problems with criminals that do these, or offenders that do these types of things, they typically have they start with the animals or other people or things like that when they're in their adolescence.
Right.
So he could have been doing that in his adolescence and people wouldn't even know. Like, a lot of people didn't know a lot of other famous criminals were doing things like that. But I don't know. It just, if you're a victim of an assault or a sexual crime, and you know that a lot, when you think about why me, why did this happen to me, almost the majority of the time, the victim will say it was just wrong place, wrong time. It was the opportunity.
But do you believe that for
is
this? Do you believe that
That's what I was gonna say. Just the same thing. I think wrong place, wrong time would have been a random gunshot wound or something along those natures. This was so gruesome and detailed that
I feel like
you
wrong
said,
place, wrong time would have been something other than the woods, though.
Yeah, no, I was using that analogy, forgive me, for victims who have been victims of assault or sexual
Oh, got you.
crime.
Not in this case.
Yeah, that's a lot of times it was the opportunity.
Right.
Like they were
in a
walking
desolate
down.
place and they were
Yeah,
alone.
yeah, they were just they just happened to be there and the person already had the buildup and the desire to do something like that. They
Right.
saw the
That makes
opportunity,
sense.
they got that rush of adrenaline, and it was like, boom, it just happened. So I do not believe that was the case with this case, but just that I think that they did present, though, an opportunity by being so young. They were alone together. There are so many crimes of two grown women, adult women, that things like this have happened to, or multiple people, that just because it was two of them does not mean if someone has the intent to do something.
But the thing
evil,
is, girl, that Anthony Schatz knew they were going to the Monon High Bridge.
Yes, I know. Yes,
That-
with Keegan.
that
I know.
is-
that I can't get past either. Absolutely agree.
What do you guys think of
Yes.
this theory? What do you think of the possibility that Keegan Kline was selling pedos preloaded phones with girls' pictures and meetups?
I think it's absolutely possible.
Because
that doesn't sound out of the
I'm
region,
just saying,
Absolutely.
Richard was in Peru where Keegan Kline lives the morning of the murders. I'm just saying, I would have liked to know more about that, about their locations.
He had a lot of phones
that day.
too.
Did their locations, because there was a weird thing with Keegan Kline in his interview with police where he was questioned about being on another road in Peru that day and connecting to someone's Wi-Fi. And they didn't say whose it was in the transcripts.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but did he not say that, or the Snapchats rather, they were supposed to be meeting up with the girls, or at least one of the girls that day?
Yes,
right?
He made a meetup with them on the Monon High Bridge because they were the last to Snapchat with him. They Snapchatted
right. And he
him.
was saying that it was somebody else had his account.
Then afterwards, yeah, that's what it was. Afterwards, a message was sent from the Anthony Schatz account saying something like they didn't show up. I was supposed to meet them, but they didn't show up.
Right. Yep.
Well, Richard Allen did have, I think, didn't they say there was 10 devices that he had?
More than that. I think it was like 16.
Oh, yeah.
A total, over the years. I mean, it was 5 years later, and they just didn't throw out their phones. The family, had them in a drawer.
I have a bunch of old
Okay,
I have
yeah.
2 old phones sitting in front of me right now, actually.
I don't keep my old phone, so, I understand the weirdness of, like, "Why do you have all those phones?" I don't keep mine, so
But
but
however, they couldn't find the one that he was using in that time frame.
correct, but you don't need the physical phone to get the cell records, so
Exactly.
where are his cell records?
See,
Well, you have
Why
to
didn't they
remember that
present them?
was years ago, and every
Doesn't
year,
matter.
yeah, their technology and the cloud changes and all that. My husband works in cloud security,
but they could have
and
contacted the phone company.
they could, but they would have to subpoena the records because phone companies do not
Right, they
just
should have
turn
got a
over
warrant for
records.
her.
They could easily subpoena them.
Exactly.
Because wouldn't you wanna
My
know who was
specula
calling her? I mean, who called her phone all night? Was there any
I
weird phone
agree.
calls? Was there any weird texts? You know?
Did you guys see the screenshot of Kelsey saying that she had been trying to call one of them and that it connected and then suddenly it didn't and then suddenly it was just silent for the rest of the time? Does that not sound exactly like the headphone scenario that, someone called in, it started to make a noise, they put the headphone in, and then the phone was off? That kind of lines up exactly with what Kelsey was saying.
I mean, I get that. I get that maybe like people are saying if the headphones were plugged in, that it would stop the sound, but all you'd have to do is hit the volume button to silence it as well.
My thought was they hit the volume button first and then plug the headphones in to stop future
Oh,
noise.
yep, that's a good thought. What would I do without your brains up here, girls? But what do
I
you
want to say this
I
about
have one question real quick. I want to throw something at you guys really quick. Hold your thought, boss lady.
yes.
Do you think that it's possible that Abby was unalived in the water and that's why she's clean? Because if you look at this picture, I don't know if y'all are looking at them, but I looked again. If you look at her left leg, the jeans are dirty, like they've been drug on the side. I don't know if you're looking at them, but on her left leg, it looks like all up the jean leg, it looks like dirt. And then if you look at her sleeves, you can kind of see some dirt on the underside of the arms. So I don't know what you guys think about that, because this is not a messy bloodbath of a scene. I am shocked. I'm shocked.
More reason that I think it started somewhere else.
Like
You
the
know,
water,
but
maybe?
yeah, that could definitely explain why she's clean versus the other girl. And then, well, no, there was no blood on her clothes either, was there? The dirt kind of looks like she was moved at some point and then placed back
It does, doesn't it?
on her back. Yeah, yeah.
The
It's
bl
like she got
Sorry.
dressed. No, no problem. It's
I'm
like she
sorry.
got dressed, someone placed her on a side or something, and then placed her on her back.
Yeah, moved her around. Definitely. Definitely staged. I don't see it any other way.
It's absolutely
Correct.
staged, but the blood from her, that's on her hands and her neck, her hands obviously trying to hold, her necks or put compressor on her, compress the wound on her neck. If she had been in the water after that had been done, her hands would have been clean, at least. There would have been blood, of course, around the neck because that's a lot. I mean, there's
Right.
a lot of blood, but the fact that it's all on her hands like that and still,
No, I'm talking about the other
that
one. I'm talking about the top picture,
oh, the top picture.
the clothed.
Oh, oh, yes,
See
yes.
that?
We can't really see her neck from there.
No, I'm talking about the
And
jeans
oh, the jeans, how they're dirty on one side. Yeah,
and the
that's
sleeves as
probably
well.
because yeah, that is
And
interesting,
then if you
but
look
I
at the
think
other one as well,
mhm,
look
mhm.
at what is the same in both of those photos. The branch going across the neck. They both have one going right across where the wounds are.
I never noticed that. You are so right.
And I sometimes when sometimes some offenders or killers or attackers, when they do something, they cause a wound on somebody. Then some cases, this has happened before. where they have injured someone in a way that they regret afterwards, or it was just a snap decision or whatnot, they will try to place something over it. Sometimes a blanket, sometimes a hand towel, sometimes an article of clothing. And to me, that branch across the neck like that is kind of like, ooh, it's like a trying to cover it up some, or they don't want to look at it. They put it like that. That's just a theory, but that is common with some who have done things like that. Like they don't want to look at
The
the injury
actual
they
wound.
did.
Hmm.
Yeah, like
It can be a sign of remorse of some degree.
exactly. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, boss lady. Yes, exactly. Remorse, regret. He's looking at it and they'll be like, oh, yeah, let me just.
Yeah, this
But a
definitely
lot of
isn't
people have done
concealment.
that.
It definitely is
Yes, like
not.
a concealment thing. But the way that she's so, if like I said, if you look at the way the sticks are, the way that it just points down, and the way that it's framing all of her private parts, like in a humiliating way. It
Mhm.
reminds me of other crimes I've seen over the years. So it just, yeah, that's my personal
That
opinion.
just further for me, like, shows to me that someone cared more about Abby than Libby. I'm convinced now that it's someone who knew them, or at least knew Abby.
It could also be, like I said, in the moment of the crime
Or Libby
that's
fought.
taking place.
Look at
Yes, that
looking in
she
the
fought.
Idaho 4,
Yeah,
like Kaylee's injuries were worse than Maddie's. And they say that
Which
exactly.
girl?
Oh, so true.
Mhm.
Which girl was Snapchatting with Keegan, thinking it was someone else? Which girl? It was Libby's phone, right?
Yeah, Libby was yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it was Abby talking.
That's
Okay.
according to Keegan, he was talking to her friend. Yeah, so Abby. But it was Libby's phone.
The thing is too, is that sometimes, like with this, why I believe that it was personal with her, not previously personal, just is just my opinion. And I'm no expert, so do not put too much gravity into what I'm saying. But when a female victim has been assaulted like this, and the other victim that's with them, when there's two of them, doesn't have the extent of injuries, or is not put on display like this, she must have fought. She must have said something that triggered the person who did this, and it became personal in that moment.
Mhm.
That it could be something right in that moment, because like I said, that fight or flight, that adrenaline that's running, there's no rational thought. And if he was pressed for time, this person who did it, Richard Allen, or I don't want to say he did it, because that's, excuse me if I do not mean to
Whoever did it.
accuse. Yeah, he's innocent right now. But that person who is, if he was afraid that he got exposed, or the van went by, you're in full on panic mode, and you have this victim who's fighting back, who's making it worse, who's making the situation even more intense. You're just gonna lash out. You're gonna get really angry and you take it personal, especially if you're
And you're
telling
going to
someone
want
to
to
be
make it
quiet.
end quickly.
Yeah, because she could have been getting loud, and he could have been telling her, be quiet, and
Right.
or whatever. We don't know, but I do know that there are plenty of cases that I have read about, or looked into, where the perpetrator um, did do more to one than the other, and it was all because when the other survived and said, well, she was the one that was fighting back, or
Mhm.
she this or that, they take it very personal, to the point where they will beat them to try in the face, just to try to erase their,
Yeah, that's very
yeah,
You're
common.
right. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. You're right.
Absolutely. Even if it was someone that was more personal from the beginning, or even in the meantime, it can
Mhm.
absolutely be the case.
My question, Jeeper, is, if you believe the state's timeline,
Mhm.
and that, down the hill, and let's pretend he had the gun, and that's how he like handled both of them at the same time, and then he sees the van and he's interrupted, so he can't no longer essay them. He didn't have the time at that time to undress both of them before, so they must have crossed the creek in their clothes. The clothes were
Mhm.
wet, and then the clothes were removed. So the clothes were removed after crossing the creek, after the van.
Mm-hmm.
So that
I mean, if
being
you had a
said, if
gun,
you spooked, why did you then take the time to undress them knowing you're not going to essay them because you're scared because you got interrupted? And then you don't essay them, but you undress them, and then you redress one, and then you put the sticks in patterns on the girls. I have no idea what it means or what it's tied to, but it has a meaning. That's not someone who's in a rush or who's been spooked at all.
Well,
thinking through it.
yeah, the perpetrator is actually in the same state of mind that someone who is spooked. That same amount of adrenaline and fight or flight, the amygdala part of the brain is just going crazy. So it's the same amount of adrenaline that is rushing through them. That is the same as if they were spooked or not. They're in this elevated state. And there's no concept of time when you're in a situation like that. Just like for the victim, you're in the survival mode. Time just doesn't even it's not relevant because that's rational to think about time. But I do think that um he could easily, I think the reason why Libby is undressed is, like, again, I say that they could have already been pretty much passed away at this time, and to humiliate her, I really feel like when I see that and knowing other cases, this was intentionally to humiliate her more than anything, especially where the sticks are highlighting and following the path of her sexual organ. I mean, it just
You know what gets me is that it seems to me that a crime scene reenactor or whatever they call those people should
Mhm.
be able to tell if those clothes were put on after she was deceased or not. I mean, I'm failing to see the experts in this case tell
They
us
And you
what
know
didn't
what?
happened.
That
do
could be
any
why the
research.
FBI was kicked out.
Right. I mean,
Either
make it make
either they
sense.
didn't do research or follow up on anything, or they did, and it's not exposing Ari as the killer, and they're hiding it.
Correct. That's 100% what I think. I think that is exactly why the FBI was kicked off this case. They were called in originally. They were, giving lots of props for all their help. And then suddenly they get kicked off. And then shortly after, they arrest Richard Allen. So, yeah, you're right. I think that they probably did have a good theory as to why the scene was the way it was, and it didn't fit their narrative.
Right. So did they leave out a bunch of shit that didn't fit their narrative? And if so, where is that stuff?
Yeah, that's what
Absolutely,
I
they
think.
did. Because the van thing, I have a big issue with the van. So I cannot find it, but I know, and I know that you've talked about it on here before, Jay, that was it Fields, whoever drove the van, what was his name?
Weber?
There's so many people in
Weber.
this.
Weber.
Sorry. Yes. So his original statement was that he did not get off work until 3:30, not 2:30 or 2, did not get home until 3:30. It changed to 2:00, which is what is on the deposition and what he stated on the stand. But his original statement was that he got off work an hour later, and he stated that he went to go check his ATMs. Now it's changed, and it somewhat fits the timeline for what they're trying to say happened for Richard Allen. But his original statement was somewhere that he got off work an hour later and went to go check his ATMs.
He
By the
did.
way, can we prove he clocked into work, that he was there that day? Has anyone corroborated that he was actually at work?
We don't know.
That's a good question.
Don't know. None of that was brought up as evidence.
If it
And I
wasn't, then
guarantee they
that
looked.
You know what
yeah.
else I would love to see? I would love to see that van. Like, I would love to see how close that was. Maybe a video of how close that road would be. Like, is it close enough where that it would really spook him? But it spooked him, but he felt comfortable slitting their throats and staging their bodies. How bad did it
Right.
really spook him? And how close was it?
Yeah, I get the heightened, like, adrenaline, and suddenly we're gonna essay them, and then you're just heightened, so no concept of time. That makes sense. I'm just not educated on the brain in that way. But I don't know. It just doesn't align at all with the final photos of what they look like, their bodies and how they were posed. That girl, Abby, looks exactly like the Hanged Man tarot, and I can't get that out of my head now, ever since, Andrea said it.
They have it compared on this website too, next to the tarot. It's
That's very similar. The way her leg is purposely crossed that way, I can't get away from that. Why did they purposely cross her leg, her knee over like that?
it's pretty precise, yeah. Unless she was just dragged and that was how it ended up underneath her like that. Because you also have a shoe underneath her.
What I love about these discussions, and there's so many things to observe and think about, is that all of us are trying to figure out what is the meaning, what is the purpose, why this happened, because we can't. It doesn't come immediately to us because we could never do something like that, or we can't truly put ourselves in a situation as this killer is like, oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, though that's this or that. We just have to go off of what has been profiled, what has been known from previous crimes. But there is so much that could be debated in this, and it can go so many different ways. And as far as the jurors, I feel so bad. I'm not allowed to be a juror. I can never be one because I've been a victim so many times that I'm very biased because I've had so many things happen to me. But I just really feel for these jurors. I don't know how they could be exposed to that type of uh, information and be in the same room as all of these families involved, including Richard Allen's family, because he is innocent until proven guilty, and his family is victims as well. So I don't know how they could think rationally when there's so much emotion, and to
I agree.
find that balance of rational mind and mindfulness in the middle of, because it's you just want to react black or white with it, right? There's
And it's definitely not, and the thing is too, it's one of two things is going to happen. Well, actually, one of three things could be a hung jury. Okay, they go back, they start over, do it better next time, as far as the state goes, right?
Mhm.
Or they convict this guy, he's guilty, he's going to get what he gets, or they convict him and he's really innocent, or they find him innocent, but he really did do it and he walks. It's extremely.
It's disappointing all the way around because we've seen other cases with people who have walked where we know, I mean, come on. I
Yeah.
mean,
Right.
it's like, duh, but it
But the
has to be a
question
shadow
is,
of a doubt.
have you ever
Yeah.
seen someone walk who confessed? Have you
Who can what?
who
Oh,
can
sorry, I missed that last
have you
part.
ever
confessed?
have you
No.
ever seen someone walk who actually confessed?
Not until decades later.
Nope.
Oh, no. Yeah, no.
True. They were exonerated decades later. Absolutely true. Yeah.
And this case is driving me wild because the way they're handling it, this town, Delphi, is the law enforcement, not the people, is like West Memphis 3 times 2
Oh,
from
yes.
the
That's
early
the
90s.
problem with these small counties, these small towns, is that the law enforcement, I am thankful for law enforcement. I do back law enforcement because I have family that's in law enforcement. But the thing is that you may never realize it, but when a case like this happens, a lot of times you'll see in other criminal cases that have happened in small counties that the law enforcement, they're like cowboys with it. They don't want anyone else getting in it. They want to do it. They want to have full control over it. And they're all on the same team. They're all, the FBI, other surrounding counties, any other human being that wants to see justice for these families or these victims, they should all be working together. But there's all these egos and all these cliques and all of these.
Yeah,
It's
Well,
you
it
know,
blows my mind that
ridiculous.
it's the state police, though. That's not just the county or the local. We're talking the
Yes.
state boys,
Yeah.
are ignoring these facts as well and
Yes.
kicking the
Yeah, I
FBI
think
out.
So silly.
I think they got tunnel vision. They wanted to close this case so badly. There's a lot of passion here. There's a lot of emotions. They wanted to catch this guy so badly that I feel like they started making the evidence fit their theory instead of following where the evidence takes them, is how I feel with it. I mean, clearly this was a very gruesome crime. And, they may or may not have the right guy, and the right guy could still be out there. And that's very scary to think about.
It is.
Indeed.
It is.
And then I'm wondering, you guys, if this is a hung jury, my question is, sometimes in cases when there's a hung jury in a mistrial, the prosecution ends up dropping the case because they didn't have a strong enough case to begin with. And I'm wondering if that could happen here. If they get a mistrial, if the state is going to have to drop it because they don't have what they need.
I don't think they will. And the reason why I say that is I think that it's such a high profile case. And I don't think that the public would allow that. I think they're going to have so much public pressure to close this case that they're either going to have to find more evidence and retry him or move on to somebody else, but they're going to have to close it. I really think there's so much public pressure that letting it go is just going to be very difficult to do.
I think the timing is way too convenient with Keegan Kline making his deal, getting his plea deal, and then within, what was it, incognito potato, within a month, Richard Allen was arrested. That timing was just impeccable, man. Impeccable. Yep. And that's why it might have even been less than that. It might have been 2 weeks after they dropped 4 charges from Keegan and he took a plea. And then I think it was a matter of weeks, maybe a month, and they had Richard Allen. It was like, whoa, where'd this dude come from?
Maybe Keegan promised he would go on the stand for them.
But then he didn't.
And that's shortly after they kicked out the FBI too. Because I truly think that the FBI was headed in a different direction that the state didn't agree with. And come on, it's the FBI. Why would you not want their help?
I don't understand how they're all on the same team. They're all supposed to be working for
together.
Justice, and it's like,
absolutely.
Do you guys remember how defense wanted to bring up Keegan possibly as witness, or that was the rumor?
Yeah.
And then they decided not to? What if they were doing that because they knew that Keegan had gotten that deal and discussed possibly identifying Richard Allen for the state, and they were bringing Keegan on to expose that?
But then Gall cut it out.
Yep, right.
Right.
Exactly.
Because him
they
and
wanted Keegan on the stand to figure out, hey, they were investigating you in this whole Delphi thing, this Anthony Shots thing. What happened there, and why were you given a deal?
Yeah, and that's where the judge comes in. This judge, I'm sorry, this is a worthless judge. Not letting any other third party possibilities come into play here is just very rare.
Such bullshit. And you know what? That's exactly why they didn't bring Libby's records in, because then they would have had to explain Anthony Shots. And once they open the door for Anthony Shots, then it's all open.
Exactly. No third party. There's so many things, Fields and Elvis and Ron Logan even creeps me out.
And what's with the fish references of that day? I was looking at fish, and then Ron Logan was at a fish store buying fish.
Mm-hmm.
And they were catfished by Anthony Shots. Like, I don't know. Do we need to take our tinfoil hats off, ladies?
There's so many possibilities. Well, one more little conspiracy theory I have is that Gull is intentionally being this ridiculous and not allowing the third party because she wants a mistrial, because she knows the state has nothing.
I'm right there with you. My husband is not into true crime like I am. He just sits there and stares at me when I talk about all these things. But I was just telling him last night, I truly feel like Gull is somehow tied into this. Like, it is so bizarre. If you listen to Andrea Burkhart and if you listen to her explaining things and all of the objections that she is sustaining, and all the, the defense can't bring in something, but the prosecution can, and it's the same type of evidence or witness. It's so bizarre. It does not make any sense, and it really feels like it's not a true and fair trial both ways. And again, I know I sound like I'm defending this guy, Richard. I'm not. I'm just saying that, we need to know the truth. And if it's not him, then we're wasting our time and tax dollar money to prosecute this guy if he's not the true one. And so if there's a lot of evidence that's not getting brought in, the real guy could still be out there. And that's the scary piece of this.
Well, the thing is, too, the family does have power. Sorry. when it comes to that, because in the case of Jennifer Kessie, who disappeared here from Orlando, like, I don't know, probably going on 30 years ago now, her parents did not feel like the Orange County Sheriff's Office in Florida here was investigating it, after it went cold. They actually sued for her entire case file because Orange County would not hand it over to them. So it's interesting to know that that is something. I don't know if the family would go that route, but we're all wondering what's in these files. What else did they uncover that wasn't presented?
And this defense, if they have to come back, they need to do the cell phone records. They need to present that of all people involved.
And I think they need to look more into those Google searches, because I'm sorry, what they presented as Google searches as evidence of guilt is absolute crap. Because anybody that is listening to this right now probably has very similar Google searches, right?
Yes.
I mean, that is so ridiculous. And so they need to be looking at Google searches for Anthony Schatz and Fields and Elvis and all of them.
Girl, I've been looking up crime scene photos for years. If they looked at my shit.
Oh yeah, any true crime enthusiast, any of them. But no, boss lady, what you said about you're not defending Richard Allen by, I think that's because people have an emotional response to hearing if in their mind that they've decided that he is guilty, that to hear anyone say, well, he deserves a fair trial, he deserves this or that you're defending him. No, if you truly want justice for these girls and all the victims, everyone involved in this, he has to have a fair trial. He has to, because
absolutely
and I want that for him. If I knew that, if I had knowledge of another crime, let's say that I'm invested in emotionally or whatever, by following it, and it's just obvious that that person is guilty, I want them to have a fair and by the book, absolute true right.
Yeah, I mean, everybody deserves that in this country. Otherwise, what are we doing? It's our justice system.
Yes, and then otherwise it won't stick. It won't work. It's not going to work. And then the justice is not. It's just such a sensitive thing.
It's about these girls. It absolutely is about these girls. It's not about one person. But you have to look at all the puzzle pieces to put it together. And I think in this case, there's so many puzzle pieces that are still in the peripheral that have either been brushed aside or not looked at or something of that matter. And, it's a very scary thing to realize that the real God could still be out there, and I'll tell you this too, I know that the videos were not public, but there's been plenty of YouTubers, that have discussed the jury reactions. I think the first day of the videos, I think somebody out there saw some clips of it from sitting in the gallery and was kind of talking about some of the things. And the problem I have with this is that those things happen to him and he's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, which means this cannot happen in this country. And if that is happening, I guarantee you it's happening in other places, and that's a big problem.
Yes, I agree. And that's also been going over into the Brian Kohlberger for the Idaho murders. That's also been a hot topic about that, because he is innocent until proven guilty. But I just want to thank you all for having me on here. It was really wonderful.
Thanks for coming up. Hey, before you guys all hop down and we wrap this up, I loved our discussion. I want to throw one more thing at you ladies.
Yes.
So I know we were talking about Judge Gall, and I know everybody is appalled by, her behavior. I completely am on the same page. However, if we rewind to the first judge, Judge Diener, who recused himself, this is where this is interesting, right? Because Gall wasn't the original judge. She was brought in as a special judge. This judge recused himself. His reason? Fear. He was fearful. He said that public servants in this case were not protected.
Oh my God.
So they brought in Gall because Gall looks like she can handle herself, right?
Yeah.
So what is that all about? I want to hear from Judge Diener.
I have a conspiracy theory with that too. I think that he was told to recuse himself because they wanted Gull on this case. They wanted her to preside over the trial because
But
they
what would
knew
make
how
a
she would
judge?
be.
What would make a judge just fold and say, "Okay, I'll step away"? I mean,
Well,
a judge would say, "No, this is my case." You know.
If he was honestly kind of fearful of like being hounded, that could still be true, and he could have been asked to
I
step
think
down.
he would.
God, that makes my tinfoil hat get even bigger knowing this. Like,
Well, because if you think about it, the judge, look how this is like an international, this is worldwide. This case has gotten, and it's gone on for so many years, and it's had, these big moments on social media, and maybe that judge, I could absolutely see a judge going, oh no, I don't want it. Look at all that has happened with this case before we even went into the courtroom. Maybe that judge just,
it takes a lot, I think, for a judge to recuse himself, though.
I don't think so.
Really?
You know why? Look what has happened with judges get attacked in the courtroom, the death threats, judges are assassinated out. I mean, there are so many cases of things like that happening.
but you know what that makes me wonder is who's doing the threatening.
Why didn't he feel safe? Why didn't he not feel protected by his own law enforcement?
Exactly. If he feels like he's not protected by his own law enforcement, like you said, are they the ones doing the threatening?
I see what you guys are saying. Oh,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just because he's a judge doesn't mean that his law enforcement who works with him is going to be loyal to him or be right. Look at all the corruption anywhere. I mean, we're just talking about all the holes in the case and how law enforcement handled it and whatnot. Why not? Why not?
He knew something we didn't, apparently.
Exactly.
Yes.
And we can't, as much as we've seen in this world that people are capable of, which they shouldn't be, we don't know, but I can absolutely see a judge going, oh, there must have been something. I could see them recusing themselves. Oh yeah, the judges get attacked in the courtroom with.
But I mean, if this is one man and they got their guy, right? It's one guy. There's no threat to the community. What the hell is he afraid of? Presiding
Look at all
over
the
the
threats
case.
that the people covering this case get. I mean, the true crime podcasters and people that are even there at just in the forefront trying to report on this get. I mean,
right, but I mean, I think that it should be okay. Well, law enforcement's going to ensure that this judge stays safe. He
not
didn't
if they
feel
don't want him on the
confident.
case.
Right.
But it boils back to corruption then.
Exactly.
They will if it benefits
This is
them.
all corruption. This is
Isn't it
all
the way it is?
corruption.
I mean, why did
In the
she have
court.
no overflow room? Why restrict the public so greatly like that?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
they knew they had shit. Excuse me.
Yep.
Do you think that's what
Yeah,
it
Andrea
is?
Burkhart did submit what you call it? She submitted something to the Indiana Supreme Court to have the records released to the public.
Yeah, she did. I guess that
So
she
hopefully
hasn't
that'll
heard
go
anything
through.
yet, and she said it could go to a hearing where her and Gall are face to
hell
face.
You know what? You know what I hope happens is if he gets convicted and it goes to appeal, I hope Andrea is involved.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's a hung jury and they go back and try him again, I hope Andrea is involved. That's my opinion. I think Andrea should definitely be by deep into this for sure.
She could at least be an advisor to the defense.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
It's been wild, man.
the
I can't
world
imagine what they're all thinking, being the ones that were actually there and
yeah.
oof.
And getting hounded. By the way, everyone's saying because they're defense lawyers, they're not being truthful. I don't think that's a thing. Yeah, they're going to be a little biased with the defense side, but I mean, no one's going to defend a guy who's got a bunch of evidence against him that he's the killer.
Well, I mean, that's kind of their job, though. That's the
Yeah, they
thing.
have
Is,
to.
yeah, I mean, even a public defender, their job is to poke holes in a case.
I could
To
see
get
a
them
defense
out.
lawyer
If they
seeing
had
this.
real evidence,
I could see a
Andrea
defense lawyer,
would not defend him.
but I would see a
They
defense.
have to have a defender.
I could
They
see a
have
defense
to.
lawyer being really excited to poke holes in a case like this.
Yeah.
Right.
Because she
Think
gets
about
she gets
famous
excited when
ones.
she talks. I mean, not excited about the crime, but like when she's, picking things, you can tell it's in her, like it's her passion. And when she
Yeah.
finds those things, she's really finding them.
For sure.
Absolutely. She's poking those holes, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's not tinfoil hat type of
No,
stuff.
she's
Like it's
mesmerizing, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's definitely this whole thing, like I said, there when law enforcement, a judge, or anyone, we've seen it in religion with religious leaders, CEOs of big companies, people who are in the forefront as good people or not, when it benefits them, they will bend their morals, unfortunately. I'm not saying everybody, but there are a lot of cases like that, and especially in law enforcement because they have even more protection or support in like the pack mentality type of thing. So it's you never can, and every time we say, "Oh, that doesn't make sense," it's like exactly, it doesn't make sense. That's the whole reason why this is just like it's unheard of, or it strikes a chord with us because it doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be like that. So unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption and things like this, and
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that you guys allowed me to come on here and talk.
Me too.
Me
It was
too.
And
it
I
was
hope,
fun.
yeah, and I know that I saw someone say that I'm scary in the comments, and I had to laugh because
Why?
because I think it's because I like I said, I have been a victim of a lot of things. I've even attempted to self-cancel over them before. I have been in a mental hospital twice because of that. I only one of them they ended up arresting. One being two of them got arrested, but one got right back out on the street the next day.
Oh
But
my
one of them
God.
really did. He had sexually assaulted 4 other girls. And so he did do jail time. But the thing is, the reason why I might sound scary about it is because I wanted to know why this happened. What kind of
Yes.
person does these things? And other victims, what do they do to carry on? Because you when you're a victim of something like this, you relive it in your night terrors. You have complex PTSD from it. You are still a victim of theirs because you have the memory and the trauma of it. So it is. I wanted to know, and then I started really getting into true crime and trying to understand the psychological side of it. Like, what makes a human being get to a point, or how do they get to that point where they even think to do something like, how does this happen? And that's why I talk passionately about it, because I had to know for myself, and that I hope that by what my knowledge can maybe help somebody else maybe see that, hey, this is possible. So be careful, look for red flags, pay attention to them. So yeah.
No, I
But
totally get it. And
Yeah.
and I want to say this too, that I've been blessed to not have experienced anything like this. However, I think it's important to hear from people that like your perspective, to be able to see a different side of it that we, as in people that have never been through anything like this, may have, because it's very different perspectives and different angles of looking at it. And my purpose or my reasoning for this is exactly like yours, is I have to figure out the puzzle. I have to figure out the psychology behind it, is how, like you said, how does someone do this? And why?
exactly.
And
It's
by the
so
way, you're not
cool.
scary. You sound
No,
really
you're not
nice.
scary at
Thank
all.
you. Thank you. I was like, I could
Boogies.
see, maybe someone, I'm so passionate about it, I'm talking about, well, maybe this is not. It's only
Boogies,
because
making her feel comfy.
yeah, no, it's fine. Even if someone thought I was scary, that's okay, because I'm not, I know who I am. That's okay if I'm sound scary, because I've survived a lot. So I do have kind of sometimes a very almost like a medical sterile approach to saying things where it should be more emotional. I feel comfortable talking about it because I have, researched so much into it.
You're a
But
survivor, girl.
yeah, And all I can say is that I hope that in the bottom line, as I'm leaving my words of departure are that I just hope that what Abby and Libby went through, that it'll never be for nothing. There will always be some benefit if other girls her age or other families who have girls or children their age educate them on and somehow out of this and say, see what happened, and it
Listen,
makes them
I
want
don't mean to cut you off, but that's exactly why I thought the Anthony Shots story and part of this is so
was
important.
so important.
Absolutely. Yes.
I was, yes, and that hopefully that will save another child from having to go through this, or another family
It's
having to
so
suffer a
important. It's
loss.
so
I
important.
think maybe that needs to be dug into a little bit, even if it's not, on your show, Jay. I mean,
Yeah.
Yes.
dig into that portion of it, because it's just been whispers of it, like it's been
I would love
mentioned,
to,
but
because I've got all of his documents from his other cases, because he was catfishing a lot of little girls.
Yes, there's
yeah,
so
I think you
many.
should, and I definitely think you should do a show.
You know what's really
about
crazy,
that.
guys, is that, remember one witness said that they thought Bridge Guy was wearing a mask?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right after, I think it was 2 days after the bodies were found, there was another girl that was speaking with Anthony Shots, who was home alone with her girlfriend, and there was a masked man looking in her window. This was after she gave Anthony Shots her address.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot
In
more to
honor
it.
of the girls, yeah, I think you should do that. I think that would be
Yeah, we
a good
will,
idea.
It would be very, very, very important to bring that to light, that, not even about just this case, but just that
In
one
general.
situation, and how, in general, and how dangerous that is.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
you're right. I think
awareness needs to, this is a great platform
anytime you can,
and a foundation
yeah,
for
and
that.
anytime you can find an opportunity to raise awareness about this, you need to
Exactly.
take it. I agree. Good idea, guys.
Because when I think about myself and what I've been through, if I had just a little bit, if I had known
A little
this, or
something, some knowledge, some wisdom or something to think twice.
I would have seen the red flags, and I would have, and then I also, the thing is that a lot of young kids or young people, when the adult that's hurting them or committing a crime against them, when they tell them, if you tell anyone, I'm going to kill your family or whatever, that they don't understand. They do have a power, that there is, that their parents would not, be able to help them, that there are people that would believe them and help them. And that's why a lot of times they don't say anything, or like, I was afraid that my family was going to get hurt. I didn't realize that person didn't even know who my parents were or anything, but rationally, as an adult, you can look at it, but that children need to know that have that open line of communication with their family, that they can speak up and say something, because nowadays parents need to be involved in what their kids are doing in their idle time.
Yep.
Who are they talking to? Whatnot.
I
Not
found a
being
really
nosy,
good
but
interview
just,
with Abby's grandma. Or no. Libby's grandma. Libby's grandma did an interview about the Anthony Shots and them, talking to him, and and how she felt when she found out that they were communicating. I mean, it was to the point, according to Keegan's transcripts, she was enamored with Anthony Shots. Libby was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there were pictures exchanged and a lot of things back and forth.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really
Too many coincidences.
I agree.
With that.
We will
Too many.
definitely dive into that, though. I think you're right. I think either way, it's a good topic.
It's always good.
Can I say something real quick before I jump off?
Sure.
Yes.
I just want to say, and I'm not going to say any names, but there is a creator who there is a screenshot of this person talking about the van, saying that Richard Allen saw Brian Weber's van, and that they'll find out about it someday. This creator said this prior to this trial. And so if you know who that creator is, I would say be very cautious in listening to that person, because he spoke directly to Walla.
Yes, it's pubes, right? Grape
Yeah, I
pubes.
just wasn't sure if you
No, it's
I didn't want
okay.
to say something on your shit
No.
and like you were friends with him. Or
Oh,
something.
definitely not friends with him. Like he's told me
Okay.
since I started on YouTube, so I know me and Gray Pubes are not friends.
Oh,
He knows damn well how I feel
I was
about him.
thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm over here like, what? Who the hell?
No.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So yes,
Oh
so
my God, I can't stand that guy.
he's rude as hell. So that
Oh my gosh,
that quacky
yes.
ass psychiatrist or whatever she is that's employed by the prison system or whatever the contract company. She was a watcher of Gray Hughes. And she also testified to sharing information with Richard Allen. So congrats,
Yes,
Gray
and
Hughes.
that's another thing about the van. That's another thing about the van is she was feeding him information.
Yep. So you don't know where that came from.
and now he's getting on Nancy Grace and all these respectable shows.
Yep.
Please.
I hate that because I do like Nancy Grace, but
I do too.
I don't like how she's handled this at all.
I like her from the old school cases. You know, I've watched her for decades. So yeah, but I get it. This case has been weird.
I like the strong women. I like the women that,
speak up.
Will speak up and, and not be bullied to shut their mouths and those types of things. Like I like that. However, I don't like this. This was very, very different.
I agree. I agree.
Well, I just want to thank you again. And then, like I said, I hope that out of all of this, that Abby and Libby's their names will never be forgotten, and that it can be such a learning tool to help, possibly help keeping this from happening again, or these types of crimes against not just children, but people in general, like learning that there are people out there that can do this too, and that they're like this, but not to always, not to just assume that everybody's like that, but there are specific red flags and situations like this, and to be just your situational awareness and things like that. But thank you so much. And
you are an inspiration, Jeeper girl. You really are.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for coming up.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Boss lady, thank you for coming up.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
Love to everyone.
We'll have to do it again.
By this.
You guys are always welcome. I know I don't do open panels much, but maybe I need to do them a little bit more often.
It was so fun.
It was. I learned a lot from you guys.
Oh, no, I learned a lot from you guys too.
And Spoogies, thank you for becoming thank you for becoming a clicker today.
I had to, especially now knowing you don't like pubes. Please,
I know, girl. Me and you's like cornflakes and milk, right?
Out of context, that was crazy.
She's like, I don't want to say.
Someone just joined in and heard that,
and I come in hot. I'm like, oh, is it pubes?
Just knowing that you don't like pubes.
No grace. No grace given to that motherfucker over here. Sorry. He is. I don't call many people that, but he is one. My goodness.
Oh my God, he is. Yes.
Well, thanks again, ladies. You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. You guys, that was like the most awesomest live we've had in a long time. I want to thank the ladies for joining again. And thank all of you guys. And also to Uncle Benny. Uncle Benny had some great thoughts tonight. Tomorrow we continue the deliberations. No, we don't do no pubes here. No pubes. But let me thank you guys. We got some super chats while we were chit-chatting. We got some members, so I want to thank you guys. Candy Rapper. Love you, Jay is for Justice. You're amazing. Cheers, my friend, and smoke it if you got it. Puff, puff, pass, my lady. Amanda Howe became a member. Autumn Nick. Shboogies, my girl there. Kels coming in with a 1999 super sticker and one-eyed Flobo. Thank you, ladies. And Jazzy Girl just became a clicker.
Jennifer loves horses.
Thank you, guys. Boss lady, is she Heather Cohen? I don't think so. Wait a minute. But before we go, did they really sell their house? Sophia Petrillo? Sophia Petrillo said that Sebastian Rogers' mom and stepdad sold their home. Jammers. 17 months. Amazing live, Jay. Thank you, beautiful jammers. You're no longer Red Riding Hood, but I love you anyway. Thank you for being a member for so long. Jazzy Girl, thank you for all you do. I love your channel. Thank you, Jazzy Girl. Cute little pooch. No, but my name is Heather. I don't think she looks like Heather Cohen at all. Well, you're beautiful, boss lady. Well, even though we had the Google screw up, I think we did pretty good today, guys. Thank you for joining. We're going to roll our credits, dance it out. You guys have fun tonight, Friday night. John Gone Girl is just joining us late. Hopefully, replay crew, John. Sold it for $725K. Holy. Ooh-wee. And I apologize. I didn't go live on the other channel last night. I was really tired. So hopefully this weekend. But anyways, we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you for a lovely, lovely afternoon and great conversation. We will see what happens tomorrow when deliberations begin again in Delphi, Indiana. Everybody have a great night. And until then, I'll see you in the next one. So much for watching. If you enjoyed this live stream or video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on my latest content. Want to take it a step further?
Bring it all in.
And join our community clickers by becoming a Patreon or a YouTube member. You'll get exclusive access to our Discord server, special channel perks, and much more. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.
Click, 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 click. It's real easy, man.
I don't give a damn. I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. Damn, damn. I don't give a damn. Damn, damn. I don't give a damn. Damn, damn. I don't give a damn. You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to France, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time, I ain't got time, I ain't got time for that. Staying up late, sleeping all day, dreaming about Cadillacs. Buying new shoes, hanging by the pool, sipping on Coke and Jack. Calling my phone when you feel alone, I'll never call you back. 'Cause I ain't got time, I ain't got time, I ain't got time for that. I don't give a damn, I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. Damn, 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 damn. You're mad at me for not giving you comfort. You say that I'm away so much, and now you don't feel the way you felt when we were younger. But that's okay for me, 'cause I don't give a damn. I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. Damn, damn. I don't give a damn. Damn, damn. I don't give a damn. Damn, damn. I don't give a damn.
Bye, Jennifer.